Stevenson, Gwynn, Jones, Naylor, Gwynn and Reid.
Could I also add, Madam Mayor, Councillor Barry Holland, Anne Holland and Bill Fairfelt?
I start tonight on a sad note. I'm sure a lot of you who knew Wing Commander David Archibald, DL, who passed away suddenly at Christmas. David organised the Remembrance Day services in Ashton for many years. He was involved in the organising Armed Forces Day and also was heavily involved in the Rotary. He represented the King as a DL at many of these citizenships ceremonies. He will be sadly missed by everyone, I'm sure. After a short break over Christmas and New Year, Declan and I have had a varied and interesting few weeks. We met with Peter and Sue Williams, who are Tameside's longest-serving foster carers, with 40 years' service, a remarkable achievement. I have welcomed several community groups into the Mayor's Parlour to show our appreciation for the great work they do for our communities. We attended several schools for arts, awards and presentations. Among them was Thomas Ashton, Greenfield Primary Academy, Wildbank Primary, St Anne's Horsey Primary Ashton, Denton Community High School, Clavering College and Mosley Hollins. I have to say that we have many talented young students here in Tameside. We attended the Holocaust Day in Manchester, represented Tameside at the Chinese New Year celebrations, and I was personally delighted to see Stalybridge win a prize at the Cheshire Best Kept Stations event. We also met the fabulous 105-year-old Marjorie from Duckingfield. She was born in 1919. She was as sharp as a tack and has seen 4 kings and a queen in her lifetime. Marjorie told us that the secret to long life was common sense and a tot of whiskey every night. Thank you.
Members and officers, please stand as the civic mayor leaves the council chamber to this row.
Can I start by saying that as council is taking place during Ramadan, and given the timing of the council meeting, some of those present may need to leave the room at some point to break fast. Please feel free to leave the meeting in order to do so. I would also like to inform members that the returning officer has agreed that a by-election for the Longdale ward following the resignation of Jacqueline North will be held on Thursday, the 10th of April 2025. The notice of this election will be published on Thursday of this week. I'd also like to thank Jacqueline for the contribution she's made for the residents of Longdale and for Tameside Council. And now go on to agenda item 2, which is council minutes. Could I ask that the executive leader move those, please?
Move those minutes, please, Chair.
Are these seconded?
Yeah, second those minutes, Chair.
Thank you. Everybody agreed they're a correct record and can sign them? Yep. Sorry, go on.
Can I speak?
What do you wish to do?
Speak on the minutes, Chair.
Sorry?
To speak on the minutes, Chair.
No. I'm only asking if they're a correct record. We don't have matters arising in the minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Would you all agree that I sign those as a correct record? Thank you. Now move on to declarations of interest. Hopefully you've all completed your forms to allow you to take part in the budget meeting. Are there any other declarations of interest at this stage? No? Thank you. We now go to agenda item 4, communications of announcement. The executive leader.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I wanted to do was to send a couple of personal messages. Firstly, on behalf of the group, and I'm sure all of the councillors in the room today, best wishes to Councillor Joyce Bowerman, who is currently convalescing after some medical treatment. So I just wanted to send her all our love and best wishes and wish her a speedy recovery. Can I also extend a message to Councillor Denise Ward of condolence after the sad passing of her mother? Again, I'm sure myself and colleagues all want to send our best wishes across to Denise at this sad time. So, members and officers of the council, back at the end of last year, when I first had the honour of standing here before you as executive leader of Tameside Council, I said that our success would be judged on the 3 priorities set out. Those priorities were improving the services that the council provides to residents, fighting against the scourges of poverty and inequality, and investing in our towns to restore civic pride and drive economic growth. Over the past few months, we have made some real progress in all of those areas, and I'm proud to have shaped change. I'll shortly hand things over to my colleague, Councillor Hugh Roderick, who will deliver the details of the budget. But ahead of that, I wanted to take the opportunity to say just how driven I am by it and our ability to positively impact people's lives, those in the most need, due to the investment proposals being put forward this evening. This local authority and its budget is a commitment to our residents. Where we decide to put our money shows clearly and unambiguously what we value. I believe that this budget shows that we value what our residents say is important to them and that the financial decisions we have made reflect that. The good news to share with you all this year is thanks to the local efforts of this new Labour government, increases in the local government finance settlement and other funding streams put us in a strong position to drive record investments in services. For too long, Tameside has endured austerity, with cuts of over £237 million to services. Within the first year of the new Labour government, we have seen investment into our authority, where we can help support our most vulnerable. It's important that people understand where public money goes and how it is spent, and how it reflects our priorities and ambitions for Tameside.
Could I please ask you to sit down and be quiet? Members of the public are not allowed to speak.
Tackling hardship and inequalities and boosting opportunities for all. Throughout the budget setting process, we have been in constant touch with our residents and businesses through the Partnership Engagement Network and other consultation and discussion events. To anybody that has contributed to these, your feedback has been invaluable in helping us understand what is important to you. I'll give you just a couple of examples of how this feedback has been incorporated into the budget. Far from putting forward cuts to public health, we have taken the opposite approach to put in additional money to supplement our allocated dedicated grant. As a former executive member for population health and wellbeing, this is a measure that is particularly close to my heart, knowing some of the health outcomes and challenges we face as a local authority. Seeing investment into public health and prevention is key to driving those inequalities down, and I have all faith that we can support Tameside residents to be healthier. We're also bringing strong financial commitments to deal with issues such as homelessness, education and low pay. At an International Women's Day event this week, it was wonderful to talk to many women in the room about women in business and the opportunities for women in the authority. But there are still mountains to climb for women in Tameside when it comes to things like the gender pay gap and the health inequalities they endure due to societal norms and lack of confidence and opportunities. But as a local authority, there are many ways that we can and do support women into work and help them reach their full potential. I was very proud to be a speaker at the event and to hear from so many women about how I'd inspired them with my speech. The thing that stood out to me most were the young students in the room, who not only engaged, but discussed many serious topics with such maturity and respect, wanting to know how I, a woman in a man's world, as they saw it, overcame misogyny. I did explain that unfortunately it is a factor of the world I choose to be in. However, the motivator is never the me part of that. It's the voices that are silenced, the voices that won't be heard, because they matter. And without my resilience, the loudest voice will dominate, but it won't be the one that supports the right cause. And in my view, the right cause should always be the greater good and future of Tameside, and how we support people to reach their true potential. People in Tameside say looking after our most vulnerable in our community, adults and children, should be the priority. But we recognise the other areas that matter, those things that make you feel proud of where you live. Therefore, we've made the decision to direct resources towards universal and frontline services, such as road maintenance and waste collection. Where other local authorities have chosen to cut these further, we're investing more, because our residents have made it clear on the doorstep and through other consultation exercises that they are services which matter to them. And personally, as an elected member of the last 11 years, I've definitely realised and understood there's nothing more emotive than people's bin collections. But we cannot afford to be complacent. We may no longer be starved of money as we once were, but we still face a number of challenges that we owe it to residents to be realistic and transparent about. Too many people in Tameside still struggle to make ends meet through no fault of their own, with some areas falling within the poorest 10% nationally. That is not a situation we are willing to accept, and this budget commits money, including £500,000 in additional crisis support, to drive substantial improvements and better outcomes at pace. Through our pension credit roadshow, we've unlocked £326,000 in additional annual benefits for pensioners in 3 months alone, and we will continue with this type of work to boost our residents' income in the next financial year. We also need to ensure that we deliver high-quality services at the best value for taxpayers. In some cases in this budget, that means making a number of savings and efficiency proposals. However, none of these are targeted towards service reductions, with the focus being instead on identifying and meeting needs earlier and more effectively. Last but no means least, one of the advantages that Tameside has, an advantage shared by almost no other local authority in the UK, is the number of senior members of Parliament that have their constituencies in or close to the borough. This includes the Deputy Prime Minister herself, and we will be clear and constant to them in making the case both for Tameside and for further reforms in local government funding. As a parent in Tameside, a resident in Tameside and an elected member in Tameside, I want to create a borough that all of us can be proud of, and I want to see a council that is seen to strive to make things better every day. Our borough of Tameside, through a change of government, may no longer be starved of money like we once were and like we have been for the last 14 years. I believe that the budget presented here tonight will be a fair budget, a balanced budget, and a budget that does the right thing for the right reasons. For every decision we have made to secure our financial sustainability, we have made two that will prioritise investment, put money into people's pockets and unlock the potential that we know exists within Tameside. Together, we are writing a new story for our borough, for Tameside. As we move forward from tonight, I pledge to you now that my colleagues and I will leave no stone unturned to turn that story into a reality. And I will drive on with my continued commitment that I pledged here in front of you all, unopposed, unanimously elected on the October the 24th last year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. I have some good news that I'd like to share to the meeting, Chair. Tameside has been announced as the best performing council in the North West for investigating and taking enforcement action against fly tipping. The latest figures published by DEFRA, the Department of Food and Rural Affairs, show that in 23-24, Tameside Council issued 236 fixed penalty notices for fly tipping, more than anywhere else in the North West. The Council issued 279 fixed penalty notices in total for all waste offences, including littering and household duty of care. Fly tipping incidents in the borough also reduced by 34%, from 4,416 in 22-23 to 2,905 in 23-24. These figures reflect our proactive approach in tackling waste issues, and it clearly is making a difference. I'd like to thank our hard-working officers in their determination and dedication to investigating and clearing fly tipping, and also like to thank members of the community who work with us to tackle fly tipping, clear litter, and take responsibility and pride in their communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to announce the return of the Royal Exchange to Stalybridge Civic Hall. Back in 2019, the Royal Exchange created, it's called the Den, and it was a constructed theatre that was built inside the Civic Hall. And it's absolutely brilliant, and it's a real architectural feat for anybody who wants to just come and have a look at the cardboard seating and the structure. They have travelled around Greater Manchester, but they started here in Tameside at Stalybridge. So in May, they will return for the whole of May, and they will be building their theatre. This time, they'll be expanding the programme, and we'll have lots of community events, we'll have performances, we'll have comedians, we'll have music, and it's a really great opportunity. Having culture on the doorstep, people being able to walk from their houses in Stalybridge and come and enjoy an evening, and you can decide how much you pay for your ticket. So that's entirely up to you. And we are really excited. We're really looking forward to having the Royal Exchange back in Tameside, and they have said how much they've really enjoyed being here and they have continued work over the last 5 years, and so there'll be lots of community activity as a result of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's the end of the communications or announcements from the Executive Leader and Executive members. I'm now going on to agenda item 5, which is the Council's big conversation. We have received no valid questions from members of the public for this evening's meeting. I'm now going on to agenda item 6, joint meeting of the Executive Cabinet and Overview Panel. Could I also just point out that I will not be taking any questions on the budget, the financial questions here. We'll take them on the budget, which is the following item. Thank you. Is it moved?
We move the minutes that are listed within the report, the exec minutes for December, January and the 26th of February, Chair. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, I'll second those minutes,
Thank
Chair.
you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Halligan.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was encouraged to read in the Executive Cabinet meeting minutes of January the acknowledgement that Tameside's growing population and the increasing number of properties places significant operational pressures on refuse collection, with a proposed investment of approximately £960,000 in additional resource a welcome step to address these challenges. However, such population and housing growth also brings increased strain on our road network, particularly the need to maintain clear drainage for our residents. Both Councillor Chadwick and I have received numerous complaints recently from across Wearmouth regarding blocked gullies and flooding. Now, these issues, when reported, are being attended to diligently as best as they can by council officers, who are clearly doing their best. However, with over 48,000 grids in the borough and approximately 500 being checked per week, this equates to each gully being visited approximately once every 1.84 years. This would appear, therefore, especially given our concerns over the Godley Green development, that the current level of resourcing is insufficient to keep the network clear. Now, I know my ward colleague, Councillor Chadwick, has raised this in the past, but it has been rebuffed on grounds of cost. However, to my earlier point, the money clearly is there if needed. My question, therefore, is this. Will the Council commit to reviewing the current resourcing for gully clearance, either by investing in additional resources or by optimising the use of existing resources to improve the frequency and effectiveness of gully maintenance across the borough? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments of anybody? No? A response, please.
£47,000 gullies on the highway network, and we do have schedules in place to ensure that these are routinely cleansed, prioritising critical locations. We respond to 800 requests for cleansing gullies a year, and as a service, we are investing in new handheld devices which will allow us to analyse silt levels and scrutinise the time taken on each gully and improve accuracy and efficiency, allowing us to predict trends and identify issues easier and quicker. Once that data is available, we can change routes and have more targeted approach to preventing these issues escalating. We're also looking to review highway maintenance investment of up to £2 million, and there's £500,000 investment into the street scene, which we're currently working on how to allocate, but that will include gullies.
Thank you. There's no need to respond further. Councillor Billington, sorry.
Further to that, on Councillor Halligan's question, I do have concerns on this borough in how we're going to cope. We've seen in the news that parts of High Peak Council are proposed to merge into Tameside, and we're struggling as it is to cope with the current needs of residents. How does the Cabinet Member for Environmental Services expect that we'll cope on top of additional residents as well? Thank you.
You wish to respond? Yes.
Under our waste services review, we're investing £2 million into the service, which will improve efficiencies. We'll have extra vehicles. We've got a new in-cab technology where we can target areas of need. We've got new investment coming in. We've got extra staff coming in as well. We've got, so we can, once we get the in-cab technology, we can streamline our routine delivery optimum.
Questions through the chair, please.
Well, if we're going to have added population, the 2 million investment will work towards that, and we've got new things coming into place to improve and make our service more efficient.
New taxpayers.
Yeah.
Executive Leader.
And thanks, Laura, for your comprehensive response. I suppose in response to your comment, Councillor Billington, no firm plans or arrangements with regards to High Peak becoming part of Tameside are in the offing. And certainly if they were, it's our responsibility to ensure that we're looking at infrastructure. But if those conversations were anything more than potential rumours on social media or things that there were official conversations that I was privy to, then I would absolutely inform this council and we'd have further conversations in terms of infrastructure and cause and effect of the changes that may come from that.
Thank you. Could I ask you please to be quiet?
I just want to ask a question. I just want to thank Councillor Wills and Councillor Boyle for investing in our communities. The biggest problem in my ward is bins, and the bins are too small for large families. And I just want to make a plea, really. If you are investing in communities, our communities want bigger bins so we can stop fly tipping and waste and extra bags on our streets. And another issue that we're finding as well is that the bin men, the refuse collectors, are not picking up extra bags because of the policy this council has set, which is causing more fly tipping and rat infestation. It's a real concern for our residents. It's a real concern for the people of Tameside. And only yesterday I went out on a walk around in the ward, and many people are dumping rubbish in the alleyways because they don't have the bins to actually collect all that rubbish because the bins are too small for large households. We must do something different for the residents on Tameside, and I welcome a debate on that. Thank you, Chair.
Executive Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Yeah, and thank you for raising the important issue. I understand some of the plights that we have nationally, but certainly locally in Tameside with regards to fly tipping and waste management. I do want to reiterate the points that Councillor Boyle has made and that are outlined within the budget with regards to our investment into waste at a point in time where other local authorities are having to make additional cuts. That's not to close down the argument around suitability and having a look at what meets need, but just to reiterate the points, we are continuing to do the right thing and invest in our waste management in Tameside. And that's not easy when budgets are under such constraints, but we will certainly have those conversations and see if there's anything more that can be done. And as we've heard from Councillor Boyle today with regards to our pro-action with regards enforcement for fly tipping, we are absolutely determined to eradicate the issues that we have across our local authority when it comes to fly tipping and waste being disposed of unlawfully. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments on the executive minutes? No? You're all happy to receive those minutes then? Thank you. I'll now move on to agenda item 7, which is the budget. The Local Authorities Standing Orders England Amendment Regulations include a requirement for the Council to have a name vote on the main council tax resolution on any amendments to the motion. Therefore, when the vote is taken on the budget, there will be a name vote on the council tax resolution and also on any amendment. And for your information, the council tax resolution is Appendix 18, which is on the published report. Can I now ask Councillor Roderick to move the budget?
Thank you, Chair. Members and officers of the Council, the headline message of the budget for the financial year 2025-2026 is this. A significant increase in the local government finance settlement has allowed us to propose a record investment of £54 million in local services. Before I present detail of this budget to Council, I want to echo some of the points that the Leader has mentioned in her address. It is not possible to overstate just how significant the changes to the local government finance settlement are. It amounts to £24 million increase in our core spending power. This has also come with an additional £14 million in government grant funding allocated to Tameside to support the most vulnerable members of our communities through our adult services, children's services and homelessness teams. All of us in this room know, but it bears repeating, the Council has had to make £237 million worth of budget cuts due to austerity since 2010. We've all seen as well how the cost of living crisis is continuing to affect both our residents and the cost of the services that we provide to them as a council. This budget is a starting point to address the cuts that we've had to make, and it lays a foundation to build back what our communities want to see from their council. As the Leader said, there is no room for complacency, and we must remain clear-headed about the challenges we face and ensure that this investment makes a real difference to all of our residents. As a Cabinet, we know all too well our history and the challenges we face, but we cannot and will not let it limit us as we seek to be more ambitious for the place and the people that we represent. As the Leader also mentioned, our 3 corporate priorities are improving services, fighting poverty and inequality, and investing in our towns. So I will set out how this budget will help us deliver on all of these ambitions. First, service delivery. The budget has allocated funding to prioritise the most vulnerable members of our communities. This includes making more than £20 million available to support the ongoing delivery of good adult social care and supplementing the current resourcing of our improvement journey in children's services with an additional £8 million contingency should it be required. However, we know that residents also, rightly, expect improvements in their universal services, which is why we've earmarked £2.5 million to improve our roads and clean up our town centres and communities. And a further £2 million is to be invested in our waste services. Secondly, to tackle poverty and inequality, and in recognition that addressing poor health outcomes is one of the gravest challenges we face in Tameside, we're proposing not just to shield public health from savings, but to increase investment in the service by passing through the full uplift we receive through business rates retention. And to give young people in Tameside the best start in life, we're increasing our investment into education services outside the dedicated schools grant by £4 million. This will cover additional staffing as well as boosting school transport to ensure that those in need will always be able to access it. In addition to these investments in services, we are also exploring options to generate wealth and opportunity in our communities. This includes a programme to lower barriers to entry for local, small and medium-sized enterprises to become part of the council's supply chain, keeping the Tameside pound in Tameside. For those residents facing the worst of the cost of living crisis, we're also putting £500,000 of additional money into our crisis fund to deliver assistance alongside the Household Support Fund and other programmes. And when it comes to investment in our towns, this budget will turbocharge our ambitions to deliver regeneration and improvement at scale and pace. Driven by our new strategic growth unit, we will transform all of our town centres into the engines of economic growth and civic pride that they can, should and will be. However, while these projects will help us secure a brighter future for Tameside, we must also take steps to bridge the gap to that future by guaranteeing our financial sustainability in the short to medium term. That is why, in this budget, the decision has been made to recommend an increase in council tax of 2.99% and the adult social care precept by 2% for the next financial year. It is a fair question to ask why we have to increase council tax and the adult social care precept at the same time as we are talking about record investment in services. The harsh reality is that the council is required by law to produce a balanced budget each year. Furthermore, the government has made it clear that delivery of all of our full spending power under the new finance settlement is contingent on local authorities maximising their own revenue through council tax, business rates and adult social care precept. So if we do not make the decision to increase council tax, not only do we reduce the amount of revenue we can raise in the future, as we'll be starting from a lower level, but we will also reduce the amount of funding settlement from government that will be available to us in following years. That would remove our headroom to invest and our services and That would remove our headroom to invest into our services and drive growth, and leave a gap that would have to be filled by either imposing further cuts in vital services or using reserves, or in the most likely scenario, both. The end result would be to a continued downward spiral of service provision and an upward spiral of statutory costs with diminishing returns on savings, leading to the running down of reserves to balance the budget, ultimately leading to the need for a bailout from government. That is not a position we intend to find ourselves in Tameside, because it fails all of our residents. The proposed council tax increase has been set to ensure we can balance the need for investment and renewal on one hand and safeguarding our financial future on the other. We have also taken every step to minimise the impact on residents with support measures for those in financial hardship, ensuring that no one is left behind. The bottom line of this budget is that if we are asking residents to contribute further, it is right that they expect to see real improvements in return. This is more than a financial challenge. It goes to the heart of what local government is for. If people feel like they only ever receive less while paying more, the outcome will be frustration, distrust and disengagement with the entire democratic process. We are already seeing this in the low turnout at local elections. That is why this budget is so important. For the first time since the beginning of austerity, we are no longer being forced by financial circumstances into managing our decline. We have real choices, real agency, and real hope for Tameside's transformation. But with that freedom to choose comes the responsibility to ensure that this budget reflects the values and priorities of our residents. To achieve this, we have sought feedback from elected members and residents through our scrutiny panels, groups such as our Partnership Engagement Network and the Tameside Youth Council, and on a 9-week online public consultation. Next year, we intend to go further still, engaging with as many stakeholders as possible, as early as possible, to ensure that our budget is of Tameside, by Tameside, and for Tameside. In summary, this is a budget that invests in core services for some of our most vulnerable residents, but also puts money into people's pockets through championing growth and regeneration, and delivers sustained improvements in the areas that people have told us matter to them. In that spirit of ambition and ceaseless striving for excellence, I commend this budget to the Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
I'll second that motion, Chair. I have nothing further to add than I did in my initial speech, which obviously spoke to the budget, other than just a thank you to Councillor Roderick for delivering this budget to us today, especially at the height of some challenging times. I think he's done an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Could I now ask if any member wishes to put forward an alternative budget that's been signed off by the Section 151 officer? No? Okay. Councillor Billington.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, I want to start off by personally thanking Jacqueline North for her service to the borough. I've been shadow for the finance portfolio since 2019, opposite Oliver Ryan, Jacqueline North, Jack Naylor, and now Councillor Hugh Roderick. Although we may have political differences, I've always sought to be constructive and act in the best interests of residents in our borough. Jacqueline did put her heart and soul into the job, and in my opinion, was the hardest working member of the Cabinet I have come across. She was a credit to the Labour Party and will be a loss to this borough. But the inheritance that Jacqueline left has been squandered, with over £15 million taken out of reserves to pay for new day-to-day spending commitments, as soon as the executive leader was imposed by Labour's National Executive Committee. I remember this time last year when Councillor Reid said, and I quote, "When we have a Labour government, we'll be awash with money." This clearly isn't the case, with the core spending power rising by a paltry £981,000 this year. So the cost falls on residents with higher council tax bills. Looking at the budget, there is a liberal use of the term investments, such as a £2.5 million investment in additional national insurance contributions. Do you think businesses in the borough will be calling Rachel Reeves' employer's national insurance increase an investment? Then there's £6.9 million for the union pay deals, which is described as a staffing-related cost investment. Many of our residents who work hard won't have seen the generous increases that the public sector have enjoyed in recent years. Inflation, that's also another investment, with expected cost increases coming in at £14.7 million, a cost of this Labour government's failure to grow the economy. But where is the investment in our borough? Our town centres, keeping streets clean, tackling fly tipping, fixing potholes, investing in our people through skills and attaining businesses. This budget doesn't address those priorities, our residents rightly ask. It lacks any vision whatsoever. I sound like a broken record every year, but we need to drive growth in this borough. Tameside has the lowest growth output of any borough in Greater Manchester and the lowest jobs density, with more people travelling out of the area for work. The Mayor, Andy Burnham, has stated that over the next 20 years, Tameside will be one of only 2 boroughs in Greater Manchester to see a reduction in employment, the other being Oldham. And already we are seeing the effects of this council's failure to nurture business. Income from business rates was down by more than £4.4 million than budgeted in the previous year. Labour's failure to nurture business in Tameside is not only costing residents, but it's killing aspiration for a better area and a future for our children. Instead, residents are paying the price for bad management. Take the executive leader and the chief executive's office. Not a frontline service, but seeing the smallest reduction in budget of any department. I remember coming to council and seeing massive underspends in the chief executive's department in the days of Sandra Stewart. But now we have Mr Caffarel from Oldham Council, a borough with massive overspends due to poor decision-making and on the brink of bankruptcy. And what is this visionary leadership we are seeing? Proposals to cut democratic services by £115,000 at a time when councillors are told we're not allowed to contact staff directly and must go through democratic services. This will inevitably lead to longer response times for our residents. Then the leader proposes to modernise the Tameside Citizen magazine, saving £85,000 a year. The Conservatives have been calling for it to be scrapped for nearly 30 years now. I've actually found an article from the former Conservative leader, Colin Grantham, calling for it to be scrapped. But at the same time, so you say that you're going to cut the Tameside Citizen magazine, but at the same time, the executive leader has these new vanity videos She's got a videographer putting all these videos on Facebook. But I have to say, we haven't had one in the past couple of weeks since the Trigger Me Timbers news broke. Oh, they're making a return. Right, okay. I remember the council leader saying she was going to be open and transparent with the public, but we have a leader in hiding and not wanting to face the challenges of this borough. Another area not seeing cuts in the budget is public health, a department that is fixated on finger-wagging at the public and what they can and can't do with their own lives. Despite more funding for anti-obesity drives, Tameside as a borough is in the top 10 in the country for the number of people classed as overweight or obese. And, you know, I do count myself in those figures, you know. But it just shows, despite spending all this money, it's not working, is it? So this sort of spending is a luxury. Once you've got the basics right, you can do things like that, but we need to address the basics. And it's not just Tameside Labour raiding the pockets of hard-working people by increasing council tax by the max. Your Mayor, Andy Burnham, is increasing his precept by a whopping 34% to pay for the B network. Now, I did warn that it was going to be a money loser, and that would be passed on to the residents of this borough and Greater Manchester. The police are also seeing a 5.46% increase, with a Band D property now paying £270 a year for the privilege of policing. And confidence in policing is at an all-time low. Knife crime, burglaries and antisocial behaviour are on the up. But if you say something that Keir Starling doesn't agree with, then you can face up to 3 years in prison for hurting words. Or if you call on your councillor to resign, then you can expect 2 detectives to turn up on your doorstep. But if you're a Labour MP who used to be an assistant to the Tameside Labour group and punch a constituent, 2-tier justice kicks in and you get let off with a suspended sentence. The police should work with the budget they have got and work on catching real criminals. So, how would the Conservatives address residents' concerns? Many people are worried about the cost of housing in this borough. Tameside has seen the highest average increase in rents across anywhere in the country. This is due to landlords accepting contracts from the Home Office and Serco offering 3 times the market rent to house asylum seekers. Local people are being squeezed out through government competition. Using devolution powers, we will introduce a 300% council tax levy on landlords who house asylum seekers. I believe this will significantly reduce the need for housing in the borough. Figures from DCLG suggest that 5 out of 7 new homes built will go to immigrants. The asylum levy will deter landlords, free up supply and return rents to a more reasonable level. If there is a less need for housing, then we'll save more of our precious green belt. Tameside is long overdue a local plan, but I feel that this model is now becoming outdated and a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't suit the identity of our 9 towns. We'll put the power back to residents through neighbourhood plans, who will get a greater say on rejecting new HMOs which are plaguing the borough. We'll also cut funding for interpreters, immigration charities,
2 minutes, Councillor Billington.
minority interests. Council services can be accessed equally, but if you come to this country, you have to respect our way of life and learn English. The taxpayer should not meet additional expenses from people who have yet to make a contribution to society. We will cut divisive woke DEI schemes across the council and partners. Schools will be forced to focus on educational attainment and traditional values. As Tameside has some of the worst educational outcomes in the country, we'll drive up aspiration by converting a failing secondary into a grammar school. We'll go business rates revenue with a start-up incubation hub, reduce planning fees on quality office space to 0 so we attract more professional services to the borough. We'll designate Aston Moss as a science park focusing on emerging technologies in pharmaceuticals, advanced robotics, engineering and AI, giving hope, aspiration and careers for children leaving school. We've seen numerous consultations over recent years. The cost is running to millions. Now the council is running a consultation on parking charges it brought in. We would use common sense and let the electorate judge at the ballot box instead of wasting money on endless consultations. So to summarise, I did warn in previous years Tameside would be the blueprint for a Labour government. I wasn't wrong. Just look at the calibre of your MPs. Up until recently, we had the Minister for Public Health in a borough where people die younger. We have the fake solicitor in charge of business.
Thank you, Councillor Billington. You've had your 10 minutes. Councillor Card. Councillor Card. Councillor Card, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Right, okay. Thank you, Chair. So first of all, I would like to thank our hard-working frontline council officers who do their best to keep our communities running. For example, these could be our amazing refuse collectors, street cleaners or litter pickers, but we need more of them, not less. I recently conducted my own poll with my constituents in Ashton St Peter's ward, which is the poorest ward of Tameside, about the 4.99% council tax increase which is being proposed by this Tameside Labour group. Over the last 48 hours, an astonishing 530 constituents took part in this poll and the results were clear. 496 residents do not want to support the increase. 34 residents support it and 25 residents need council tax support. For many, this is not just another bill, it's a breaking point. They are already struggling to survive. My ward has been the most deprived of Tameside for many, many years, forced to make impossible choices. Do they pay their mortgage, rent or council tax? Do they heat their homes or put food on the table for their families or children? Do they fill up the car to get to work or keep the lights on at night? They are being squeezed further and further by this council with no relief in sight. Meanwhile, they see their bins overflowing, fly tipping increasing, potholes being left unrepaired, bins are getting shorter for large families, and local frontline services are declining. They ask me, where is our council tax money going? So I asked this council, how will 4.99% council tax increase improve basic frontline services? So I'm using basic frontline services. Local businesses are complaining that their business rates are too high for them to survive when I'm going around walking in the Ashton Town Centre. And also, how will this council justify people's council tax money is making a real difference to people of my ward? And let me remind you, the next local elections are coming. The public are unforgiving. So I cannot and will not support this tax rise unless frontline services do improve, not false promises or false stories. My residents do not support it. They are struggling financially and they deserve better. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. I'm sorry, members of the public are not allowed to speak, so could I please ask you to sit down? This is the second time I'm asking you to please be quiet and sit down. I'm now going to adjourn the meeting while...
Nobody wants to increase the council tax. I've run a local business in Tameside and in my ward for 14 years, and in that time, there's a reason why the Conservative government were resoundingly defeated in the last election, because there was a lack of investment all around. Nothing worked. And what I've heard tonight from my Conservative colleague is in fact, total denial of a problem. Nobody wants to increase taxes. I represent one of the most deprived wards in the borough too. And I know every day when I walk round, I can see what's happening. However, we need to invest. We need to invest in this borough. After 14 years of hollowing out and absolute chaotic political carnage, and there's no acceptance, there's no apology from the Conservative councillors for any of this. We, as the Labour group and the wider Labour government, have had to pick this up and try to run with it. So, in terms of the other items that the councillors raised to do with growth, Ashton is one of the most well-connected towns in the whole of Greater Manchester. It's on the cusp of really exciting growth prospects with the Ashton Mayoralty Development Zone, with all the investment that's going on in Councillor Billington's ward in Staley Bridge, and you've got all the investment that's going on in Ashton and the Hyde Triangle. So I don't recognise any of the items that Councillor Billington's raising. I do agree with Councillor Khan in terms of fly tipping. In this regard, it's a continual and ongoing problem that I share with him. However, we've heard from the executive member today the great strides that we've made to try to arrest this. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that can happen overnight, but I'm confident that, if we carry on and we stick to the plan, things are going to gradually start to improve. It took 14 years of decimation for us to get to this point. I'm confident it's not going to take 14 years for us to get back, but it will take time. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Councillor Costello.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo Councillor Billington's comments on Councillor Reid's contribution to the budget debate last year. If you look at the webcast, you see that she says she very much looks forward to this year's budget, so much so that she hasn't bothered to turn up for it. She also says that the budget presented under a Labour government would include fairer funding for Tameside. And yet, here we are with the same broken record, the maximum permissible council tax increase being needed. Isn't it just the case that the Tameside Labour administration has no ideas, no innovation, and no ingenuity? It doesn't matter what colour rosette the national government wears, Tameside Labour will squeeze residents as hard as they possibly can and play political games with Westminster when it suits. We can see through it, local residents can see through it, and it's even more obvious after 14 years of crying wolf about the Tories when we have a Labour government that insists councils implement the maximum possible council tax increase. But on to the content of the budget itself. And I welcome the leader's comments earlier on the importance of frontline services. That's something that our group has long campaigned on, particularly Councillor Chadwick and Councillor Halligan in his short time in the chamber. I noticed emphasis on the importance of bin collections, along with the £2 million of increased funding for waste management. And I wonder if that view is shared by her colleagues from Denton, or whether F your bins is still the prevailing wisdom in that part of the borough. On to my own shadow brief on children's services. And like Councillor Billington, I'll be a stuck record on this. Nothing that I've got to say will be new or surprising, and it's that lack of new content that, for me, makes the point so powerful. In 4 years in this chamber, nothing has altered substantially enough for the main thread of opposition on this topic to change. In 2021, when I was first elected, I said children's services needed to change and improve along with increased funding. I made the point that we as opposition had always voted in favour of extra money for children's services, but we needed to see that improvement and that the department had to be held accountable for running itself properly. Since then, I've made the same point several times in this chamber. I've been backed up by several Ofsted reports. I was delighted to see the once very reputable MP, Andrew Gwynn, echo my sentiments in 2022, being clear that money wasn't the issue, but a lack of political drive and understanding was the problem. I was further delighted to hear the then leader of the council, Councillor Cooney, in last year's budget debate, tell us that at long last, the executive had come to the conclusion that it was never about the money, but bad management. It was a shame that Councillor Cooney just didn't listen to me 3 years before that, but I was glad he got there in the end. Despite Ofsted, Despite one of our local MPs, and eventually the leader of the council, now sadly the former leader, all eventually coming to the conclusion that funding wasn't the key issue and that service improvement had to be the priority, we see another budget where around £15 million is allocated to children's services without an underpinning plan for improvement and no indication of improvement. In just the last week, the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman has criticised Tameside's failings on issuing EHCPs within statutory timescales. We continue to see little accountability for service improvement in this department. Once again, Tameside residents are being asked to stump up the maximum amount possible in council tax to fund this council's lack of a plan, and this most important of briefs continues to have an absence of political leadership, political understanding or political direction at the helm. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooney. Could I please ask you to be quiet and sit down? Thank you. Asking you now for the second time, please sit down. No, I'm going to adjourn the council meeting for a minute while this...
as well. But the points that Councillor Billington made, I would ask on this side is the Ashton Moss development. And I really do believe, and it's important that we go down the new technology that way. It's important for the young children, the young lads and lasses in the future, that they're working within the new industries. That is a designated area. The transport links are fantastic. It's linked with Manchester University as well. So I do think we need to push that, because I am to this day disappointed that the only thing you see on there is a yellow storage building which employs about 2 or 3 people. So I do think, and I hope, because Ashton Moss is not just about Ashton, it goes into Ardenshire and it goes into Droylsden as well. So I do hope when we talk about investments, but we talk about the new industries. My own grandson, I think next week, is speaking at St Damian's. He's at Cambridge University. He has a plaque, the highest achievement marks that anyone did last year in Cambridge. I would like him to come back here. The likelihood he won't. But if we got them new industries, and he's not the only one, there are other young lads and lasses who've gone off to university, who have skills, but don't come back because we don't have a provision here. So I do think that we do need to look at that, the modern industries, the new technologies, the new engineering businesses, and they're not the heavy ones, the new ones. And that's what I do. So I do think that the push needs to be on that. But we need to push GM, and I said this when I was leader, we need to push them, because I do think, along with the north and the east of Greater Manchester, we become the forgotten part of that. And I do think, and I know that Andy Burnham is keen on, and so I do hope that they continue in a very strong way in that sense. I did also, and I wanted to also stand, because Councillor Billington raised it, I would personally like to thank, it's a shame that she's not here anymore, Councillor North. I do think I've never met a councillor who did finance better than her. In 40 odd years I've been involved in local government. I remember when we came in, we had a deficit of all problems about £40 million, and how she changed all that. She would spend night and day. And I do think it's important to us here to recognise that even when the peer review came in, it says our finances were in a great state. So, and that's cheers to her, and that's important. And I do think recognise that. And I would thank her, I think, on behalf of the people of Tameside for the work she's done. And the principal stand she's recently taken, which we'll talk about that later on. But also, to me, the investment in towns, and that's why I would ask that Hugh, Councillor Roderick, look at that, because tonight I've heard about Hyde, I've heard about Staley Bridge, and I've heard about Ashton. There are 9 towns in Tameside. Droylsden's one of them, Duckingfield, Ardenshire, Denton, Mosley, They're all there, there's 9 of them, and I might have even forgot some, Longdendale. But, you know, that it's important that that investment goes into them towns, not the same investment going into the same places. And I have concern that the only meeting and the discussions here tonight or the only towns mentioned are the 3 main ones. And I accept that. Ashton's our main town. It will get the biggest share of that. I understand that. And I understand and I'm pleased at what's going on in Staley Bridge, that the theatre now can appear there because we fixed the roof. Long due, but it needed doing. And that's a great cultural event. And well done to Leanne. Well done. But I've got to say, and we've had this discussion with the town's lead member, Councillor Homer, Charles, and as Barry said at the last meeting, has its problems, that town centre. It's privately owned. We have an issue with the private owner, where they want to go with that. But I can't even get the clock fixed because we haven't got the money. Right? So if we're going to start investing in towns, some little bits of investment. It's embarrassing when you walk past, or you drive past on a bus, or you cycle past, or you go on the tram. The clock is not right, and we haven't got a penny for that. But we've just been given £20 million, I read in the paper yesterday or today, there to go into town from the lead, the member for Ashton on the line, Councillor Angela Rayner, and I welcome that. But I do hope that that doesn't just go into the same places. Because if Tameside is to flourish, then it needs to be in the other towns as well. And I've named some. I'll apologise if I haven't got any, and I'm quite sure I haven't, someone will point that out. But it's important that that isn't just going to go back into the same place, that we do look for investment. And I hope, as we've said, we've now got this opportunity to invest in them towns. You know, first of all, can we sort out the clock in Drolton? No, please. But well done, and I do hope that investment happens. And as I say, a big thank you to Councillor North. I think for many, many years, we will benefit from her stewardship of these finances better than anyone, either now or going forward, will ever do. Thank you,
Thank you. I'm sure you'll get your answer about your clock very soon. Councillor Homer. And just for the point on that, it'll probably be fixed quicker than your fixed height clock.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to come in on that, Jed, yeah, the money's there. The money's there for repairing the clock. It'll be done. There's ongoing discussions as well between officers and New Era around Bernardo's as well. I'll come back to you with a full response to that later.
Stand up, please.
Oh, I'm done now.
You're done. Thank you, Councillor Chadwick.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo your comments on High Town Hall clock as well. Thank you. It's no surprise that I rise today to object to the proposed 4.99% council tax increase brought forward by this Labour Council. But let's take a moment to recall what the Prime Minister said if Labour were to form the next government. Labour would freeze council tax next year using the windfall tax that hasn't been collected. Not a penny more on your council tax, not a penny more than the bill you paid last year. But what have we seen after Labour's resounding victory? Here's just a glimpse of what's been prioritised by the Labour government. Increased their paymasters' wages by £9 billion. Committed an extra £14.6 billion to Ukraine. £552 million allocated to overseas farmers, while British farmers, including those here in Tameside, are struggling. £6.4 billion spent on asylum and migration services, while local services here at home continue to face challenges. Set aside £90 million every year for 99 years for the sale and compensation of the Chagos Islands. £114 million for green enterprises in India. £9.5 million for accountability and inclusion in the Congo. £5 million for feminist funding in Iraq. And £133,000 for studying shrimp health in Bangladesh. While we're funding projects around the globe, there's a growing list of challenges right here at home that need our attention. We must invest in the people of Great Britain before we invest in the rest of the world. Residents in Tameside deserve accountability right here in our community, not in far-flung corners of the world. The health of Tameside residents is deeply impacted by the abundance of takeaways in each town. a matter that requires our immediate focus. It's time we prioritise local issues, issues that affect our people, rather than being distracted by international concerns like shrimp health in Bangladesh. Let's not forget the promises made by Labour councillors as has been echoed tonight. They spoke of a new Labour government that would pour investment into Tameside, transforming it into a borough of opportunity. Yet, we've also heard time and again in this chamber, after even tonight, that government cuts led to a loss of over £230 million. However, when Labour left office in 2010, council reserves, Tameside council reserves stood at £39 million. By 2019, those reserves increased to £229 million, an increase of 487%. And yet, despite this, Labour continued to raise council tax year after year, asking Tameside residents to bear the burden of higher taxes without delivering the improvements they deserve. We have to ask ourselves, is this the kind of leadership we want? A leadership that raises taxes without showing a clear return on what investment in services? Or do we want a leadership that listens, understands and makes sure residents get value for money that they contribute? In 2021, a former Labour councillor, now MP for Burnley, referred to raising council tax as a small ask. The reality is that residents would be willing to pay more if it resulted in better services. But too often, this council has failed to deliver the services that Tameside residents need and deserve. It's time for change in the way we approach local governance. Instead of focusing on the challenges we face, we need to focus on the solutions. Yes, there are challenges, there always will be, but as leaders in this council, it is our job to deliver solutions to control spending wisely and to ensure that we are providing the best value for the hard-earned money of our residents. The people of Tameside have been let down time and time again. Take children's services, for example, colleague councillor Costello raised. For the past decade, we've seen repeated failures in this area, and it's a crucial part of ensuring our children are supported, safe and given every opportunity to succeed. Similarly, the issue of fly tipping is growing. Despite what the exec member stated tonight, I walk the streets, maybe she should too. I see the hotspots on the same streets week in, week out. And while our staff work hard to keep Tameside clean, we need to ensure we implement a zero-tolerance approach. We must ensure our systems are robust enough to tackle this issue effectively. It's time for us to take strong, decisive action in dealing with fly tipping and make it clear that this behaviour will not be tolerated in our community. It's fantastic to see that the hard work of our officers has now meant we have issued more fines than any other council in the North West in 23-24, compared to the 0 prosecutions we saw in the 4 years from 2017 to 2021. Our town centres have suffered from a series of poor decisions that have contributed to struggling local businesses and a decline in foot traffic. These challenges are not just statistics, they represent real people, real families who deserve better. The lack of support for our town centres and high street businesses is having a tangible impact on the economy and the fabric of our communities. We need a fresh approach to revitalise those areas and support the people who make Tameside great. I understand and appreciate the hard work our officers do every day. The issue is not with them. The issue is with leadership that has not been able to bring about the changes needed to make a real difference. Without strong, proactive leadership, we risk repeating the same mistakes. We cannot afford to do that. We need to make decisions based on what is best for the people of Tameside, to invest in practical, sustainable solutions that benefit our communities. That's why I cannot support this council tax increase. Not because I don't understand the challenges we face, but because I believe we can do better. We need leadership that prioritises the needs of our local community, invests in our future, and makes decisions based on what's truly best for Tameside. The people of Tameside deserve better than this. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I would hope you bear with me tonight. I do have a terrible sore throat. But I just want to focus in on the budget and what it means to adult social care for people in Tameside. Without a doubt, the best budget that we've received in 14 years. The cuts over those years have done huge amounts of damage to adult social care, not just in Tameside, but throughout the country. And those cuts in social care, and for an example, you take 10 million out of social care, add 100 million to the NHS, because they finish up picking up the consequences of cutting adult social care. And it was 14 years ago that a Conservative MP called Eric Pickles, who became Sir Eric Pickles when he became an MP, brought those cuts in. And they've been an absolute disaster to social care throughout this country. The budget this year, clearly with the grants as well, we must recognise the work that our MP Angela Rayner has done. And she hasn't just done it in Tameside, she's done it throughout the country. Everybody has had extra money, and extra money has been put into adult social care. So it's not just Tameside, but we will receive £20 million. And we need to know what we're going to do with that 20 million. Now, I realise I've only got 10 minutes, so I'll give you a small flavour of what we're going to do with it. We're going to pass a large chunk of that money on to the people who provide care in our community, in home care, in care at home, and people who are in schemes where we provide support. Now, they've clearly come to us this year and identified the pressures that they've got. And we all know what they are. Inflation, the living wage, which we've instigated. It's been instigated throughout the whole of Greater Manchester. But we were probably one of the first councils to do that, and we should all feel proud that we're doing that. There's energy costs, which are massive. And if you've been in a care home, you'll know that even during the summer, they turn the heating on full. So they've got a massive cost there, and the increase in national insurance. Now, we're passing those costs, we're passing the budget on to those providers to provide that cost for us. Most of the employees in social care are female, and the vast majority of them actually live in Tameside. There are 4,000 employees in Tameside providing that cost. They're going to get a substantial rise in their pay, and we can assume that they're going to spend that money within Tameside. So good again. There's also other good news, which I will mention tonight. Three schemes that are coming on board within Tameside to provide extra care. Corporation Street in Staler Bridge, which is up and running. It's full. Birchley Park in Attersley, which again this year we will be putting people in there. And Grosvenor Street. Now I'm told in April we will start moving people in April. That's over 100 places. We will be bringing people back from out of the borough, into these nice new homes. And that means that our costs will reduce. So not only have we got extra money, you would expect me and the staff in social care to reduce our costs by bringing in efficiency. And that's what this does. And we must remember that all these three schemes haven't cost Tameside a penny. An housing association has built them, and we will provide tenants for them. Going forward with social care, I just want to mention that in July of 2011, the Conservatives under Cameron brought in the Dilnot report. It was July 2011. And it gave a way forward for adult social care to the future. And since then, since 2011, it's been kicked into the long grass. Johnson stood on the streets of Parliament and said that he was going to sort out adult social care. He decided not to do that, and he kicked into the long grass. The Labour government have come in, and what they've said is that they'll form an all-party committee, and they'll look at that. But that is the way forward. We can't carry on keep doing this. Somebody has got to take control and produce what's in Dilnot. They don't have to get another report. There's one already here. They just have to go and get it and modernise it, tweak it a bit and bring it in. And be honest with people and tell them what it's going to cost. Because that's the reason why it keeps getting kicked into the long grass. It's going to cost us. You're going to get an increase in your tax. to pay for social care. And why shouldn't we? We have to stop taking people's houses. We have to stop taking their savings to provide social care. So we need to be honest with people and come up with a plan that does it. But going forward, I can tell you, I can tell this council, I can tell the people of Tameside, is that with this extra money, we are going to provide in the extra services that are needed in Tameside. And just one more what we call them, data for you. 12,000 people since April 24 to March yesterday, 12,210 people have knocked on the door at Tameside and said, can I have some help please with my care at home? And that's the reason why we need this extra money. The pressure is absolutely horrendous. 12,210 people need us to provide care. This money will go a long way to providing that care. Thank you.
Councillor Coburn.
Seeing as we will see an increase of just over 1.2 million in the public health grant, it was just a few thoughts and to pick up on what my colleague Councillor Billington touched on. Should we not develop a localised strategy to address the public health concerns stemming from the abundance of fast food establishments in Tameside? A local plan implemented prior to the Places for Everyone initiative would allow us to regulate the establishment of such businesses, preventing saturation and improving the borough's overall health. This proactive approach is crucial if we are genuinely committed to this objective. Otherwise, our efforts may be perceived as merely symbolic. This would save money for the council and the NHS long term. Thank you.
Councillor Sharif.
Thank you, Chair. Can I remind members that we have had a fantastic settlement for Tameside, the best in 14 years. If we had not had this, then we would have seen some serious frontline cuts to today's budget. Let me say that again. We would have seen some serious frontline cuts, but we are not. Given the significant health challenges and inequalities we face in Tameside, the fact that much of the health budget has been cut over the years, the fact that public health has one of the smallest budgets in this council, I am pleased that I am in a position proposing no savings or cuts this year. We are in a fortunate position because up and down the country, councils are having to make significant cuts. Others are going bankrupt. Some are on verge of bankruptcy. Tameside Council is not. Can I remind members of this council that we do face one of the worst health outcomes in Greater Manchester and in some cases in the country. Yet, Councillor Billington, we are facing increasing obesity. Isn't the whole country? But I will ensure we continue to invest in this and give our people, Tameside people, a chance in life, a happy, healthy future where they can regain their confidence and avoid future medical complications, that they do not end up in hospital. Unlike Councillor Billington, we care about our people, and we will continue to invest in public health. Councillor Chadwick, you mentioned takeaways. Yes, we need to strike that balance. Less food, fast food consumption, especially for our young people. Public health is therefore having a say on these, whether it's in licensing or mapping out these. In my short time as a portfolio holder for public health, I have seen the amount of work gone into this service, and this is on a small budget. I really do value what we do, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our hard-working officers for everything you do. You work on important matters that are vital for our residents, like domestic abuse, sexual health, suicide prevention, stop smoking, weight loss, immunisations. We are committed to continuing to provide the good service our residents need and improve the health outcomes for all. I want us to focus on prevention as much as possible. The new leadership has recognised the important role that our valuable voluntary and community sector plays in supporting residents. I'm very passionate about what our voluntary sector does, and I'm very proud. For this reason, this year, we are prioritising new investment in a refreshed model of social prescribing with a focus on community-led prevention to better meet the needs of our residents. We have this extra investment in Tameside, and I welcome this. Regarding the strategy Councillor Colburn mentions, we do have a public health strategy from 2023. It's a 5-year plan, and we have just looked at and reviewed our outcomes for this year. And I'm more than happy to sit down with you again. I know we've sat down again and do another review. More than happy to sit down with you again and show you this strategy and go through that. I urge all members to support our budget proposals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Before I begin, I'd like to reiterate to Councillor Chadwick some facts that are made in the earlier announcements. Tameside is the best performing council in the North West for investigating and taking enforcement action against fly tipping. In fact, we have reduced incidents by 34%. So I'm just reiterating that to you. Moving forward, I am proud to support this budget here today. After 14 years of government underfunding, while some authorities are forced to make cuts to waste services, I am happy to say with this budget, we are now in a position to invest in our frontline services. Services which affect every resident in Tameside: refuse collection, street scene, highways maintenance and gullies, operations and green space. This budget helps us to deliver these services by investment which is long overdue and much needed. We are investing nearly £2 million in our waste service review, providing additional resources, use of in-cab technologies, better route optimisation, more staff, 500,000 invested into street scene, 2 million in highways maintenance. Our hard-working teams collect up to 11 million bins in this borough, working day and night serving our residents. After a recent benchmarking study, our waste service was performing well compared to other local authorities. With increased housing, increased population changes, changes in statutory requirements, this investment will give us the resources to improve further still. And then, investing will allow further actions like the improvement in fly tipping. Investment will allow us to do this. This budget is excellent news for the long-term delivery of our frontline services. This is why I will be supporting this budget and asking others to do the same. Thank you.
Councillor Sweeton.
Thanks, Chair. My colleagues have amply gone into the fact that for the first time in many, many years, we are in a position where we're producing and presenting a budget that can help us turn this tank around. I've been on 25 years. In the first years, it was fabulous. Then the hard times came and people said, I'm not in it for this. Well, I've always been in it for this. I've always been in it to do the very best for our residents and to move this borough forward. So they've amply said all that. What I want to say is I don't want to leave this room tonight and have anybody in the room unaware of a couple of issues. The fact is, you're quite right to raise gully cleaning. Up and down the country, it's been an easy hit. Like our parks, let's not have 20 gardeners in our parks, let's have 2. And then all of a sudden we've got 2, and all of a sudden we've got crises. They're easy hits. We all know politically that's what's happened. Gullies, like Councillor Boyle says, she's dealing with the here and the now, with how many gully cleaners we've got, how much staff we've got, and she's looking at the routes. Now, I recognised over the New Year period, we had a double whammy, didn't we? Let's be honest. We had a tornado last year that ripped through Staley Bridge and up into Carbrook, causing havoc. And then this year, on the very same day, we had the floods affecting some of the worst hit areas from last year. Now, that's something that I need, as the chair of scrutiny of place, I need to look at that. And the very first meeting into the new year, I directed our director of place to come forward for our scrutiny panel with a report on what Councillor Boyle's having to deal with, the numbers, the figures, and let's have a look how effective those are, because we've got to look at it. So I want everybody out there to know that we've seen this and we are going to be presenting. And let's be honest, we've got Councillor Halligan, and could I say, I appreciate the effort and the input you put in. You've not missed one, not on my watch. I thank you for that. But you know as well that we are looking at the gully cleaning. The other thing I want to say is it's been mentioned in here, HMOs. They are part of a housing model. There would be many, many instances around this borough where there are HMOs that the local residents do not know they are HMOs because they are well managed. The issue is the proliferation and the vast numbers that are coming forward, not only in this borough, around Greater Manchester, around Newcastle, that we have to look who the end managers are. HMOs are part of a solution if they are well managed. Now again, on the scrutiny, and I've spoken to the Deputy Leader, we are very, very close to putting together a report for recommendations of what we can do, looking at best practice up and down the country. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to look at what other people are doing and take those best examples. So we are very close to that. And again, Councillor Halligan knows this is not a criticism to you. It isn't. But you know as well as I do, we are very close to actually seeing what tools we've got. The other thing I do want to say, being in business and business-minded, absolutely, like you've said, like Jed said, on the Moss we have a major opportunity with the mayoral development zone to attract new businesses. But let's manage expectation. There is a lot of work that needs to be done prior to build the foundations to attract the Zenicas, to attract the people from the Cambridge Science and Business Parks. They're not going to come unless we create the environment to do that. And I believe with the monies that we're now starting to see come into the borough and facilitating out from this budget, I believe that we have the opportunity to start laying those foundations. So those are the 3 points I want to make. They're very realistic, but they're very real too. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Teresa Smith.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all members for their continued support for our children's services and our improvement journey. We know our spend is more than our statistical neighbours because of our high numbers of cared for children and the cost of their placements. This council has made a significant investment in children's services as we work hard to improve our services for all of our children. Through our renewed focus on cared for children, we will address the reliance on the very high cost of care and try to bring more of our children back into Tameside and build strong relationships with our providers. We have maintained our investment in early help, which means that our great family hubs and early years support to families can continue without any budget reduction. Our youth work and youth centres have been protected, and we've increased our capital investment in children's homes, improving the environment that children live in and increasing our Ofsted judgment for those homes in the future. We are passporting the whole of the Children's Prevention Grant announced by this government into the service so that working with our partners in health, schools and the police, we can build on systems for the future that address the family issues as soon as they arrive. And we know that our reliance on agency social workers and managers has led to a significant increase in council spending. And work is already underway to address this. Permanency is one of our pressures along with the staffing cost. We now have an excellent permanent DCS, and some other senior positions are now filled, with others going out to recruitment. Through our Social Work Academy, we have 65 students and apprenticeships in train, and we will support and train the workforce for the future, many who live and work in Tameside. This budget will enable us to build strong, firm foundations. It's not one which will overpromise and underdeliver. It represents the financial improvements that we should see from improving our practice. We want to drive our improvement journey, but please remember that children and young people and families are at the heart of everything that we do. I ask that members in this chamber support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We have had quite a number of speakers today, which is pleasing to see. I'm now going to ask Councillor Roderick to sum up before we go to the name vote.
I'd just like to say thank you to all members for your contributions, and also echo the thanks to officers for all the hard work that they do in delivering our services as a council. Hopefully most of the points that have been raised will have been covered by my cabinet members, so I will just try and wrap things up briefly. So the council tax increase is how we improve our services. We need the money before we can get the improvement, because we cannot improve without investment. We have unprecedented need and complex need across our services. Without an increase, we do not have the headroom to invest, and that's not just in the services for our most vulnerable, that's across all our services. And this lack of headroom only compounds across the years because of the settlement requirements that we maximise our income. And the result is a further degradation of services. That is why we need this increase in council tax. On children's services, to add to Councillor Smith's contribution, we are in a fundamentally different position with the Commissioner and the strategic partner in place. And additionally, the £8 million contingency that is available to children's services will only be released on agreement of the Cabinet. So we will be keeping a tight rein on you. On a couple of Councillor Billington's comments, I think investment into our officers and into population health are not nice-to-haves. They are essential to ensure that we have the right people to deliver our services and that we have healthy population so that we can have a healthy economy. On our towns, Jed, Councillor Cooney, I agree that all our towns need to see the benefits of regeneration and investment, and that is my ambition. Councillor Khan, there are several support schemes available to residents who may struggle with council tax. We work with Citizens Advice Bureau and through their welfare rights to support those on low income. Indeed, this budget invests £500,000 into supporting our poorest through the crisis fund, as well as investing into the services that our most vulnerable use. So I would conclude by saying that this is a progressive and redistributive budget that will help your residents in St Peters and all residents across Tameside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roderick. I now ask the Chief Executive to do the name vote.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If councillors can indicate, please, for, against or abstain. Councillor Affleck. For. Councillor Allen. Councillor Axford. Councillor Barton.
No, Barton.
Barton. Councillor Beardmore. Councillor Billington. Against. Councillor Bowden. Councillor Boyle. Councillor Bray. Councillor Chadwick. Councillor Choksey. Councillor Colborne. Councillor Cooney. Councillor Costello. Councillor Drennan. Councillor Feely. Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Glover. Councillor Halligan. Councillor Jack Homer. Councillor Stephen Homer. Councillor Howarth.
Councillor Kareem. Councillor Khan. Councillor Kitchen. Councillor Lane. Councillor McLaren. Councillor Mills. Councillor Owen. Councillor Patel. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Rickey. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Roderick. Councillor Naila Sharif. Councillor Tafeen Sharif. Councillor Mike Smith. Councillor Teresa Smith. Councillor Sweeton. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Tilbrook. Councillor Ward. Councillor Warrington. Councillor Wills. Is there anybody I've missed who's rejoined? Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Allen.
The motion's carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item, which is appointments to council bodies. This is a standing item, which you should have before you. Is that moved and seconded, please?
Move that, please, Chair.
Yeah, second that, Chair.
Everybody in favour of that? Councillor Billington.
Thank you, Chair. I will say it is very disappointing to receive this at the last minute. As the Labour group have reduced in the size of the council, they're now down to 37 councillors. So that affects the proportionality of committees. And there is no more representation, which, well, it should give more representation to opposition parties on committees now, whether that be the Conservative group or the Independent group. That has not been forthcoming because the leader has yet again left it to the last minute because she requires the permission of the NEC to get the approval. You laugh, but it's so unfortunate for the residents at the end of the day. So it just shows to me, Councillor Wills, you're quite desperate if you're having to recycle members on committees again. So Councillor Owen, who's Assistant Cabinet Member for Transport, very important area, is now going to be Chair of the Children's Services Scrutiny, which requires the fullest attention, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that Councillor Owen's going to claim both allowances because that's against the Constitution, but it does make me wonder if she's keeping the seat warm for Councillor Warrington, who sent the email saying that she resigned. She wasn't sacked, despite your comments saying that you sacked these councillors. According to Councillor Warrington, she resigned. So it does make me wonder what is going on. And also as well, I do have concerns with the Chair of Audit. And Mike is a really respectable bloke, and I have a lot of respect for him. But as Chair of Audit, you also are scrutinising the audit of the pension fund, which Councillor Smith sits as Vice Chair. So in effect, the Chair of Audit will be scrutinising himself on the pension fund. So I just wondered, how does that fit with the openness and transparency that the leader always says that she aims to drive, but her actions are completely different. Thank you.
Thank you. I shall answer your percentage of seats that you referred to earlier, noting that there's been a reduction in the Labour membership, but an increase in individual independent members who will still be staying on them committees. So the new entitlement is Labour 66.1%. We actually allocated 65.6%, which is a decrease in the number of Labour members sat on the committees. The Conservative group has an entitlement of 12.5 members, We're actually giving you 13.3 members, unless you wish to reduce that. The independent group, 3.6. It is now 3.9. Yours has gone up. And the individual independent councillors, 17.9. That's gone down actually to this, to 17.2. So that answers that. Councillor Wills, do you want to respond to the rest of it?
I'm not really sure there's anything else to say. I mean, they've been very well considered. We're ensuring that they're proportionally balanced. I did refer to misogynistic language as part of my speech, Councillor Billington, and it is unfortunate that that continues, certainly from appointments on social media sites that are being discussed with your own group, which is very shameful, actually, diminishing and demeaning members and their capabilities. I think they've been considered, your group has been more than considered, and in terms of timeliness, obviously you've had it today in advance of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour of accepting the updated appointments? All in favour? Thank you. I'll now move on to agenda item 9, the Mayoralty. Can I ask Councillor Wills to move?
Thank you, Chair. I would ask that we can move the appointment of Councillor Shipley Allen to be nominated as Civic Mayor for the municipal year 25-26 and congratulate her on that in advance of everybody agreeing that today. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, just to say it's an honour to second this motion. Well done.
Any other nominations? No. All those in favour of that appointment? Thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Allen. Can I now ask the Executive Leader to propose a nomination for the position of Deputy Mayor for 25-26?
Again, I will be more than happy to propose this evening that Councillor Bowden be nominated as, for election as Deputy Mayor for the 25-26 municipal year at the annual meeting. And again, it would be a pleasure if that's agreed today for Councillor Bowden. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, again, it's an absolute honour to second this motion.
Any other nominations? No. All those in favour of receiving that? It's carried. Congratulations to you, Councillor Bowden. I'm now moving on to agenda item 10, arrangements for annual council. That is for noting. Agenda item 11, questions under standing order 17.2. I have received 5 questions under that order. The first question from Councillor Billington.
Okay, so at the last council meeting, Cabinet got up announcements to make speeches, but backbench councillors were not allowed to question them in response in line with the Constitution. Can the leader answer how this is democratic? Thank you.
As Chair of Council Business, I shall answer that question. At the moment, as we've always done at this, it's communications and announcements. They're not reports. Although I do take your point, we do intend to bring something to the AGM at the council to alter that situation. Do you have a supplementary question?
I'm surprised that Councillor Wills hasn't accused you of being misogynistic and having a man answer for her. But anyways.
Councillor...
Well,
Councillor
like
Billington...
exactly, I've said that it's misogynistic.
Councillor Billington, you're totally out of order there. No, he's not. You're totally out of order. Okay? Have you got a supplementary to the question you've asked?
Yes, I have.
Thank you.
Announcements should be just announcements, not speeches. If they want to do a speech, it should be an item of council for all to discuss. In Oldham, they have individual exec cabinet member announcements where councillors can respond with questions. Would the council consider this, as the leader stated in her maiden address, that she wanted to be more of an open and transparent council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Billington. I've already answered that, so I'm now going on to the next question, which I believe is Councillor Khan.
I've expressed anger and concern over the sudden creation of a new Tameside Umbrella Parent Carer Forum. Under Section 19 of the Children and Families Act, families have a right to be heard, yet over 4,000 families in the existing Tameside Parent Carer Forum were not consulted about the major change. Given the impact on SEND families, can Tameside Council explain its position on this decision? Thank you.
Councillor Feely to respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Khan. Obviously, firstly to say that that's really worrying to hear of your constituents expressing anger and concern, and that's obviously something that we will want to remedy and we will want to work with our community. I have some notes from a response and I will just go through this and then I will just finalise with a few comments. So, Tameside has a long history of working with parent carers of children with SEND who are pivotal in driving our understanding of how we create better outcomes for children. And it is correct that the Children and Families Act 2014 requires each local authority area to have formally constituted forum. But the process of agreeing how that forum is governed and who leads it is not for the council to determine, as that simply wouldn't be the right, given that they need to be independently of the officers leading SEND work. The establishment of the Umbrella Parent Carer Forum was supported by Contact, a Department for Education commissioned agency who aimed to ensure that a fair process is undertaken. The engagement of existing parent carers known to Tameside groups was the responsibility of those existing groups. The Umbrella Parent Carer Forum launched this year and will always have the ability to embrace other or new groups of parent carers. As a council, we remain firmly committed to hearing the voice of our SEND families as best we can. Just to summarise though, I'd like to pay tribute to the Parent Carer Forum led by Elaine Healy and all the Oakie members and the families. I myself have worked with those families over the years and I've really benefited from their support, their advice and their help. They were instrumental in working with us for the Cromwell Sixth Form. They were very much a part of the voice for Hawthorns and I absolutely want to make sure that we do everything we can to bring those voices together. Myself and the Director of Children's Services, our new Director, Jill Colbert, are meeting this week with Elaine Healy and we very much want to discuss how we can bring all voices together. Thank you.
Councillor Khan, have a supplementary.
Education cannot force Tameside Council to set up a parent carer forum. However, under Section 19, as I mentioned, of the Children and Families Act, councils must involve parents and carers when making big decisions about SEND. The SEND Code of Practice also supports this. For many years, Tameside Council has worked very closely with Oakie, an independent charity that has provided vital support for families of children with SEND. However, a new Tameside Parent Carer Umbrella Forum was set up recently without any consultation with Oakie parents and carers for their views, which amounts to 4,000 carers and parents and carers, which has caused confusion and upset. Oakie supports between 2,000 and 3,000 families each month, making it one of the most trusted and experienced organisations representing parents and carers. Although the Department for Education provides grants to help parents and carer forums, I understand Oakie does not have to apply and does not need any grants that comes with restrictions. The problem here is not money, it is control. After Oakie made a formal complaint in March 2024, it was removed from all council SEND groups, meaning over 4,000 parents and carers lost their voice until a new umbrella was formed this year. This has divided families instead of bringing them together. Tameside Council should not push away experienced organisations like Oki, but should work with all groups, as you alluded, to make sure every parent and carer has a say in SEND decisions. Beyond this, many parents and carers feel let down by the council. Families tell me their children are struggling, schools are under pressure, and essential educational health and care needs assessments are not being completed within the 20-week legal time frame. This is leaving families stuck, worried, and without the support they needed. Can this council guarantee that every child who needs an assessment will get one within a legal time frame of 20 weeks? If funding is a problem, can the council clearly explain what are the challenges and what can be done to fix this problem? Finally, I would like to offer my support by, if I can, join the Children's Scrutiny panel so I can help scrutinise SEND reports by officers and hold decision makers to account, as the Conservative group already mentioned earlier. Would the council accept my offer? We all need to work together to give every child in Tameside the support they need. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Khan, although I think you stretched your question into 3. Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. So I think I covered some of those points by mentioning Oki and the work that has been tremendous in Tameside, and fully agree, fully appreciate that we need to include all people within this process. And I think that I would welcome to take up a conversation with you, Councillor Khan. And sorry if I turn around, you can't hear my voice, but welcome that opportunity to take you up on that offer. And I'm sure that there's much more we can do to remedy this situation. I think it's also worth just talking about some of the investment in terms of some of your concerns that you've mentioned. There is considerable growth and investment coming into education, and it's very specifically around special educational needs, and that is addressing those issues that you have actually just raised. And so we are looking at this is a demand-led service, and we have double the national average of our education, health and care plans, and responding to these growing numbers and picking up on the current demand, we are investing into special educational needs transport, special educational needs assessment team, which is actually what you've pointed out in terms of speeding up and making sure that we complete those assessments in a timely manner. We are looking at an assessment team in terms of completing the reviews, and we are also investing into staffing and education safeguarding. And as Councillor Roderick mentioned in the budget, this is a £4 million investment coming into education and very specifically prioritising special educational needs. And that is absolutely our priority, and we will obviously welcome a conversation and we will work with all parents and all families. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Feely. I know you've indicated to speak, Councillor Billington. I haven't forgotten you've got a second question. I was giving you extra time to reflect on some of the comments you have made during this meeting. Councillor Billington, your second question.
That's so considerate of you, Joe. Councillor Kitchen, sorry. My question is, does the council have a timetable for appointing a full-time chief executive? And when will that be, please? Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Councillor Billington, for your question. We do have a schedule. I'm really happy to share. I'm sure you've probably, or certainly your leader has received an invite to our staffing panel in 2 weeks' time. We've already appointed Penna with regards to our recruitment for this role. It's integral for us in Tameside. We've obviously seen some of the positives under Harry's chairship as chief exec. So yeah, it's underway. Once we've met with the staffing panel, I believe that Penna will then go and survey with councillors, and a proposal for recruitment will be put forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Billington, do you have a supplementary to that question or answer?
comment as usual. So I would like to hope that the recruitment process is fair this time. It was not an attack on Mr. Caffarel, but I do think that we need to have multiple candidates come forward. And when you've got councillors briefing that someone has got the job beforehand, before they even got the interview, that doesn't leave confidence to other candidates. So I hope we can avoid a repeat of that. Thank you, Councillor Wills.
It will absolutely be a fair process. In my view, it was a fair process previously, one which you took part of and voted in favour of our Chief Exec, and that was supported by your leader at full council, although you changed your mind. But yes, it will be a full and fair process. Thank you.
Thank you. Now move on to agenda item 12, urgent items.
Fourth question.
Oh, sorry, a fourth question. Councillor Barton. Sorry, I was missing you out there.
Gullies, Chair, in Mayoralty. I've reported around about 14 to 20 gullies, and they're just blocked completely. Some are outside shops as well, which doesn't look good with all the money we're spending in Stalybridge. So we've got puddles of water outside shops, and it just looks pretty desperate. And I'm getting sick of reporting it, and they're just not being done, unfortunately. So if anyone can help me, that'd be fine.
Thank you, Councillor Barton.
Cheers.
Councillor Boyle.
I'm happy to answer this question. However, some of these points were addressed by Councillor Halligan's questions, although management of gullies weren't even part of Cabinet minutes, so I'm unsure as to why he asked those questions then. So some of these points might be repeated. There are a number of factors that contribute to flooding. They can be very complex. Drainage systems on our highway do have an important role to play to prevent flooding and manage surface water runoff. Flooding is a global issue. Climate change, deforestation and Victorian drainage systems are all reasons we experience more flooding. As mentioned before, in Tameside we have 47,000 gullies on the highway network, and we have schedules in place to ensure that these are routinely cleansed, prioritising critical locations. We respond to 800 requests for cleansing gullies a year, and as a service, as I've mentioned previously, we are investing in handheld devices, allowing us to analyse silt levels and scrutinise the time taken on each gully to improve accuracy and efficiency. This will allow us to predict trends and identify issues easier and quicker. Once the data is available, we can change routes and have a more targeted approach, preventing these issues escalating. We are also looking to review the highway maintenance investment of up to 2 million and 500,000 investment in street scene, which we are currently working hard to allocate. We have 2 gully wagons with crews who clean on a weekly basis, up to all of us collectively. It's up to all of us collectively to ensure our streets are clean, because litter affects the blocking of our gullies on the streets. To this end, we have street sweepers, we have litter hubs, and we have volunteers in the community who, along with our hard-working crews, help with the maintenance of our town's infrastructure, particularly after flooding. Engineer teams meet up with families after the unprecedented flooding and help and assist where they can. But it's important that we keep our streets clean and free of litter, because this affects the blocking of the gully systems. But if you are aware of any priority gullies that need unblocking, you can report it to our engineers service.
Barton, supplementary.
Reply, thank you so much. We'll be able to meet up regarding some, urgent ones. Is that okay? And thank you so much for reply. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. That's the end of the questions. I'll move on to agenda item 12. There are no urgent items, and that concludes the ordinary meeting. We will now move to the extraordinary meeting, which is a single item. To begin the meeting, can I begin by reminding members that there are ongoing investigations into matters concerning the WhatsApp group, and members should consider the impact on those investigations referring to specific members. Can I now ask Councillor Billington to move the motion?
I'd just like to start off by saying that this isn't a motion which is an attack on the Labour group. I respect the choice that residents made in the last local elections to elect as many Labour councillors as they did. That is democracy at the end of the day. The residents trust us to make those decisions, but those decisions have been removed from the councillors here, and it's been handed over to Labour's National Executive Committee. I note that the leader's walked out just to show how much she's interested in this topic. But the thing is, okay. So the thing is with this is that there is a real democratic deficit by taking power away from elected councillors who were voted in by the public to appoint an external party body. That, to me, is a real disgrace and a discredit to the people of Tameside. I do struggle why the NEC have come in, to be honest with you, because with the NEC, they said that they came in as a result of the Children's Services Commissioner's report. And the NEC's response was, we need a campaign improvement board. Now, if you've got an issue with children's services, that's an issue of operational delivery, not campaigning. So it says to me there is something more sinister and underhand going on. And I think, over time, what has been reported in the press, that is true. And there are people, good people, who have ended up being suspended, losing their careers and livelihoods over this. And it has created a massive, massive issue in the council, where I feel that the council is now at a stalemate because of the different factions. Now, you might say, well, why is the Conservative bothered about the workings of the Labour group? My concern is the workings of this council. I want to see an effective council that works for residents of this borough, first and foremost. I can have my disagreements, and we always, will do. That's politics. But behind closed doors, when we're doing scrutiny meetings, I have a lot of respect for my Stalybridge colleagues, where we work cross-party and very hard for our towns. I have to say, as well, the leader has repeatedly lied time and time again. I said that the NEC will be interviewing councillors to see if they would be fit and proper to stand. Now, I'm aware that the Labour Party then issued a press release to the Manchester Evening News stating that I was telling lies. Now, the reason why this Trigger Me Timbers WhatsApp group has come out is because I believe there were councillors being pressured by members of Parliament and the NEC to get rid of certain councillors. And it has created this toxic environment, which I think need to move past and address. I have said quite a lot on this now, but I am going to end it in my own fashion with a bit of a joke. So there was a speech by Councillor Oliver Ryan, I think it was on the 2021 budget, I think it was. And Oliver said, we are the borough that does the instructing. We are not to be instructed. And by having this National Executive Committee, we're now all being instructed by an external party body which don't have the interests of Tamesiders at heart. They're more interested in grabbing the pension fund, let's face it. So with that, I'm going to read the motion. I do apologise, I've lost my Wi-Fi. Oh, David's got it there for me. Thank you, David. So, this council notes that, number one, in October 2024, the Labour Party's National Executive Committee, NEC, intervened in the governance of Tameside Council, forcing the resignation of the previous leader, Councillor Jed Cooney, and appointing Councillor Eleanor Wills in his place. 2. The NEC also determined the composition of the Cabinet and Council committees, effectively overriding local democratic processes. 3. Several individuals appointed by the NEC have since been suspended by the Labour Party following allegations of racism, sexism, homophobia and bullying. Reports indicate that previous concerns about these individuals were raised with Labour Party officials, but were not addressed. 4. A leaked NEC report suggests that Councillor Will's leadership has been guaranteed for 3 years without challenge, undermining the principle of democratic accountability. This council believes that, number one, the governance of Tameside Council should be determined by elected representatives, not an external political body. 2. Leadership announcements should be subject to approval by councillors at each annual general meeting, ensuring transparency and democratic legitimacy. 3. Scrutiny and accountability are fundamental to good governance, and the current arrangement undermines these principles. Number 4. The people of Tameside expect their elected representatives to act independently in their best interests, free from undue external influence. This council therefore resolves that, number 1, it has no confidence in Councillor Eleanor Wills as Executive Leader of Tameside Council, and that the Executive Leader to immediately resign, with the Chair of Council Business taking control of the Council until a new leader is voted on by the Labour Group to ensure that the Executive Leader has legitimate and an accountable mandate from councillors. And the position of Executive Leader should be determined by the democratic will of elected councillors, not imposed by the NEC. Number 2, the Chief Executive to write to the Labour Party's National Executive Committee to instruct their removal from the interference of this council and to respect the democratic right of our residents. Number 3, the Chief Executive to write to Tameside's Members of Parliament to remind them that they act as representatives of the borough in the role of legislators and not to interfere with the running of this council. Thank you. So, I know there'll be people here who secretly agree with me, but feel that they can't bring themselves to vote. I feel this is about what's right and wrong for our residents. That's what we're elected to do. I see it as an honour every day that I was elected by my residents, and I serve them, not Conservative Party headquarters. So it's time that we make a start and put our residents first. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that motion seconded?
I'll rise to second Councillor Billington's motion, and with your permission, Chair, I'll reserve my right to speak on it later on in the debate.
Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. I'll start by saying it's an absolute honour to be Deputy Leader of Tameside Council. And in my time, I'm 57 years old now, I've worked with many, many people, many leaders, chief executives, directors, in a long and proud career. But I can say unequivocally, I've never worked with a more honest, transparent, calm, inspiring, motivating and hard-working person than our executive leader. So I'll just start with that statement. Now, moving on to the meat of the issue. As Deputy Leader, I'd like to respond to Councillor Billington's half-baked charade of emotion. Firstly, I'm a wee bit concerned that Councillor Billington has perhaps overreached himself in his understanding of the Council's constitution. I'm no lawyer and I'm no constitutional expert, but it's in this chamber where all duly elected members determine and confirm the appointment of the leader, and that has never changed. Now, you'll be aware that the Labour Party has its own internal procedures for electing leaders and other representatives on an annual basis into their respective positions. Indeed, Councillor Billington and the Tory Party are no different. But I and the Labour Party will take no lessons from the Conservative Party in matters of democracy and transparency. With this in mind, for example, I was discussing with a colleague the other day the conveyor belt of Tory Prime Ministers since David Cameron. And I've got to apologise to my colleague because I thought there was only 3, but there's actually 4. And the one I forgot was Liz Truss. And, you know, my God, I wish I could forget Liz Truss. £40 billion Liz, but I can't. Now, you may be asking, this is a little bit obtuse, why am I raising it? It's for a very, very simple matter that the hypocrisy I've heard tonight, it pivots on Councillor Billington and his Tory colleagues. Shameful road to Damascus conversion to transparency and democracy. The last 4 Conservative Prime Ministers were elected by 140,000 Tory party members from a total British electorate of 46.5 million people. So, 0.3% of the UK electorate got to vote for the last 4 Tory Prime Ministers, which included Liz Truss. But it gets better than that, and I'm really not making this up. Liz Truss only got 81,326 votes, so a total of 0.17% of the total UK electorate under Tory party rules voted for Liz Truss to be PM. So democracy is alive and well in the Conservative Party. I think not. I don't recollect any protests. From Councillor Billington or his Tory colleagues regarding democracy and transparency during this period of extended and extremely damaging political carnage for the residents of Tameside and the UK. Now, I'm going to move on to the more prosaic matters regarding Councillor Billington's motion. Towards the end of last year, the Regional Labour Party was invited to help and advise the Tameside Labour Group. The Regional Labour Party helped to coordinate interviews for key posts, which included the leader. By Labour Party rules, all Labour councillors were allowed to apply and to be interviewed for the available positions. On conclusion of this process, the Regional Labour Party recommended appointments, including the leader, to the Tameside Labour Group, which was agreed on the selection of all the appointments. The new leader of Tameside Labour Group was formally appointed just before the 24th of October 2024 to May 2025, and not for 3 years, as stated in this half-baked motion. Tameside Labour Group's process will then reset for another 12 months from May 2025. Once Tameside Labour Group had agreed on a leader, an extraordinary full council meeting was called on the 24th of October 2024, where all councillors from all parties, which clearly included Councillor Billington and his colleagues, were able to consider, scrutinise and democratically vote on the appointment of senior executive members, including the leader, as stated, all until May 2025. The council process will then restart again on the annual cycle at the council's AGM. By recollection, no formal objections were submitted, and the leader's appointment was carried democratically and ratified by the full council in this chamber at close of the extraordinary meeting. The final point I want to relate to in this motion is to respond to the recent events regarding a local MP and councillors and their social media activity. Our leader has shown absolute resolve and transparency that when suspected or alleged wrongdoing has been uncovered and formally reported, that she and the wider Labour Party responded immediately and without fear or favour. The due process is ongoing, so I'm not prepared to comment any further at this time. It has been clear and absolutely essential that Councillor Eleanor Wills, the leader, has provided integrity, decisive leadership and transparency and much needed stability for the people of Tameside. And with her team, they continue to deliver the services that Tameside residents expect and deserve. Finally, it is incumbent upon me to remind this council that back on the 24th of October 2024, this chamber fully supported the appointment of Councillor Eleanor Wills as executive leader. Let's not be distracted by this divisive, half-baked charade of emotion, which works against the Constitution and, more importantly, the people of Tameside. Tonight, let's send a clear message to Tameside. Reject this half-baked charade of emotion and let's get back to work. Thank you.
Councillor Chadwick.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to support the motion presented by my colleague, Councillor Liam Billington. Today, we are called to confront a serious and pressing issue, a matter that directly affects the democratic governance of Tameside Council. The events that have unfolded in recent months, starting with the interference of the Labour Party's National Executive Committee, have raised concerns about the integrity, transparency and accountability of the leadership in Tameside Council. In October 2024, the NEC made a significant intervention in the running of this council by forcing the resignation of Councillor Jed Cooney and installing Councillor Eleanor Wills as the new leader. Along with this leadership change, the NEC imposed its own choices for the composition of the Cabinet and Council committees, sidelining the democratic processes of our local governance. But the situation took a more troubling turn with the revelation of the WhatsApp group known as Trigamy Timbers. Associated with Labour figures, including Andrew Gwynn, this group became the centre of controversy following allegations of inappropriate behaviour, and it is one that has left the people of Tameside asking serious questions about the individuals appointed to leadership roles within our council. While the specifics of the group's contents have widely been discussed, the key issue is clear. The behaviour exhibited by those involved has been damaging to the reputation of this council. Whether it is racism, sexism, or any form of discrimination, or an alleged theft of public funds by a former Labour councillor stroke deputy mayor, which I have reported to the relevant authorities, as it was brushed under the carpet at the time as not to cause embarrassment. There are some Labour councillors and former councillors who just think they're above the law. It is undeniable that these actions undermine the very values we stand for, and yet despite concerns being raised about these individuals before the scandal broke, Labour Party officials failed to act, allowing those involved to be given positions of power. This failure to take responsibility for the actions of their members has deeply compromised the credibility of the party's leadership and, by extension, the leadership of Tameside Council. As my colleague Councillor Dickinson aptly described back in October, we are left with a situation where they are all rats in a sack, struggling for control in a chaotic environment with no accountability for those who have created this mess. The NEC's interference has brought dysfunction to our council, and now we must live with the fallout from this scandal. The people of Tameside deserve better than this. They deserve a council that is transparent, accountable, and above all, committed to serving their best interests. Leadership should come from within our community, from the elected representatives of Tameside, not from an unelected body outside our borough. The current situation, marked by scandal and a lack of accountability, has shown us that external influence from the NEC has only harmed the integrity of our council. And that is why I stand before you today, urging support for this motion. We must have no confidence in Councillor Eleanor Wills as Executive Leader. Her appointment, imposed by the NEC, without the democratic will of this council or the people of Tameside has created division and controversy. The time has come for her to step down and for the chair of council business to take control, sorry Joe, until a new leader, one chosen by this council, can be appointed. To repeat what Councillor Billington has said, I also call on the Chief Executive to write to the Labour Party's National Executive Committee demanding that they cease their interference in the affairs of this council and respect the democratic rights of our residents. Moreover, our members of Parliament must understand that their role is to represent us in Westminster, not to interfere in our local governance. They must respect the independence of our council and support us in rebuilding the trust that has been lost. Let me be clear, we cannot trust a leadership that has allowed such a scandal to unfold. We cannot trust a party that has failed to act when the need was greatest. The people of Tameside deserve better, and it's time we take a stand to ensure they get it. Thank you.
Councillor Sherry.
I want to stand on this motion and reject it in its entirety. I urge my fellow members of this council to do the same and instead to focus on the difficult but necessary work ahead for the people of Tameside. And that is what matters, our people of Tameside. The NEC is not making decisions on council business. We are making those decisions, as illustrated in our meeting earlier on. Our residents are calling for stability. They demand transparency, honesty, true leadership, and opportunity. They want a fair deal for Tameside, a fair share, so that each individual can lead their best life. Whether it's our families, our children in care, or children with special needs, every person in Tameside deserves the opportunity to live a decent life, and rightly so. We've endured 14 years of austerity under the Tory government that has broken this country, brought it to its knees. We have witnessed and continue to witness homelessness like never before. The rise of food banks, poverty, debt, inequalities, record long hospital waiting times. This has all occurred under a Tory government, further fueling blame, division and hatred. I remind you once again, the ordinary residents of Tameside simply want the opportunity to lead a decent life. As responsible members for Tameside Council, it is our duty to provide that support in each of our wards and through our leadership. I have witnessed this sense of responsibility and the much needed leadership from our leader, Councillor Wills. In the 4 months she has been in office, I have seen sympathy, empathy, openness, honesty and transparency. There is calmness and there is stability in her leadership, but also the determination and the energy and the resilience to fight for Tameside. She is advocating for a better deal for Tameside, both at a Greater Manchester level and nationally, working alongside our MPs and ministers. And as evidenced earlier in our budget, we did secure a better deal for the first time in Tameside's history. 4 months ago, Councillor Wills came into office with change in mind, listening to residents, putting residents at the heart of all we do. And that is exactly what Tameside needs. With our collective support, she will deliver on this promise. We will deliver on this promise. Change does not happen overnight. We must give her the time and the space to bring it about. What she has accomplished in 4 months is what others have not managed to achieve in 4 years. Communication has vastly improved. Our committees and structures are being refreshed. A review of our facilities management is underway. A town centre car park review is currently taking place. We are actively supporting local businesses, working on the growth agenda and attracting investment in Tameside. Let me remind you that we are the best connected borough for transport. We are bringing empty homes back into use, taking control of our HMOs, prosecuting fly tippers like never before, and making key appointments, including children's services and others. Furthermore, we are looking at recruitment. We are hosting job fairs. We are looking at volunteers fairs, all under Councillor Will's leadership. A leader who is competent, inquisitive, calm and determined. And I have seen this in every single meeting. So let us stand behind Tameside's leader, who is committed to bringing about change and opportunity for the people of Tameside. I say it every time, and I'll say it again today. Tameside is a great place to live and work. We have so much goodness around us. So many people are doing good work, whether it's volunteering, helping one another, showing kindness or gratitude. We must remain more determined than ever before to ensure we have the best outcomes for our community. I wish to thank Councillor Wills for continuing to lead the business of this council. It is no easy feat, despite all Tameside is facing. We know she does not have to do this. She has seen many challenges in life. She has a young family, yet she still stands here. She is determined to bring the best and make a difference for our borough. I ask you all to reject this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Cooney.
I'll start at the beginning of this to make it clear. I won't be supporting the motion. Don't make that clear. But I do need, because I'm referred to in this at numerous times in there, and the situation, I totally disagree with a number of the points that Andrew's made. We were informed that it was a 3-year appointment, not just that the Cabinet was a 3-year appointment. That was also said to Councillor Ritchie by Councillor Wells, actually in a meeting. He would confirm that it was a 3-year appointment. I have concern, and this isn't about the leadership, and to make this clear, my concern is the control of the NEC. They're identifying and selecting who stands and who doesn't. And across Greater Manchester, to make this clear, it's nearly 40%. I believe they're going into Wigan next, the NEC. And more, I've never ever experienced that. And I go back to the time of Tell in Tameside and what have you. So I've never experienced that. Then the people that, if you look at the report, the people that they put in the Cabinet as well, because they didn't just do the leader, were leadership, they show strong leadership, skills and everything else. They've all got suspended a few days later. It's a vile sight. That's what it is, full of racism. I'm a grandfather of mixed heritage grandchildren. And I'll make this clear. Racism has no place in this borough, and anyone who wants to do it, spout it or whatever, should never sit on this council. There is a party for them, but it isn't the Labour Party. And I hope the Labour Party nationally makes that clear. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to say cyclists should be killed. It's unacceptable that elderly people should die. It's unacceptable about the way we refer to children there.
Councillor Cooney.
They're all unacceptable.
Councillor Cooney.
No, what I will say.
Councillor Cooney, you're supposed to be speaking on the motion and not on the group.
I am speaking to the motion, Chair. But the NEC, and why I'm saying that, Chair, because you said, and didn't name anyone, you actually said, don't refer to anyone. That was yours at the start, the introduction of the meeting. I didn't. I referred to the group. What I want to make clear is that democracy dies when we don't collect it, we don't use it, we don't express it. We stood at every election, doesn't matter which party you're in Tameside, and we put ourselves in, this is what we wanted to do. We then, whichever party you're in, Tory Party, Independents and Labour, will select a leader, quite rightly so. So this isn't about the selection of the leader to me. I accept that. Eleanor is the leader, I accept that. What I do have concern going forward, and always going forward, how we decide the decisions we make, because they will only be in line with what the NEC are saying, no one else. And if you're not going to follow that line, what happens is what happened with Ted Cooney there. Now, someone will come up with all sorts of other reasons whatsoever. The reality is, they phoned me. I've kept my counsel on this, but they phoned me. They were coming in because of five letters of resignation. Make that clear. Then most of the people who sent them letters in have actually been suspended for being members of a vile WhatsApp that's actually ridiculed the people at Tameside. The NEC have not, their report now should be ripped up. It doesn't stand scrutiny in itself. And I'm not saying that Eleanor Wells shouldn't be the leader of the council, we've accepted that. But that report needs to be ripped up, and then someone needs to investigate the NEC, how it then goes through its process. Because it's wrong, and they're moving in around the country.
Councillor Cooney, we're not here to determine what should happen with the NEC. What you're here to do is to debate the motion in front of you, and yet again you're going off that.
Well,
do not refer to it. Do not refer to the WhatsApp group. You're referring to this motion. If you continue to refer, otherwise I'll move on to the next speaker.
Can I just say, it does say in the motion, the NEC was determined to compensate. The NEC leaked, leaked NEC. I can't speak to the motion if I can't refer to the NEC. Now, this is the Parliament of Tameside. The public are watching this. They want to hear that. If you want to tell me, Chair, that I need to keep quiet or sit down, I'll accept that and respect your role. I'll always do that, Chair, because you're the Chair. But I can't not speak to the motion if I can't identify the people it identifies in actually going through the selection process, because they didn't just select the leader, they selected the cabinet. They selected... and I'll finish off this, for how well they did. Councillor Fairfowl is a qualified auditor. Put his name forward to be chair of audit. Didn't even get an interview, told no. So the person who became chair... this is Michael now, don't get me wrong, previous. The person who got the job had no auditor skills, no qualifications whatsoever. You know, so is the NEC working well? I don't think so. I do think in my own party, and it needs to be through our own structure, we need to challenge that as Labour Party members. And we'll do that through the CLPs and our other forums. So this isn't about removing Councillor Wells, and I won't be voting for the motion. And I'm not blaming her for the process we have now, but I can't support what we've gone through now. And then I also see that I put my hands in the faith in the same people. I've been suspended because I reported it. What Andrew said was that, you know, no one reported it, whatever. I reported it. I reported it to the NEC through Andy, well, I can't name him, sorry, through a member that covers it. I also supported it to the local, the regional party. We've got people on the regional party who sit in this venue here now tonight. We've also got people who sit on the national NEC. They're not here tonight. So why didn't it go there? I asked and told them what's there. I hadn't seen it, that's all. And certainly, Chair, and for your own good as well, the 99% of the councillors in here were not involved in that Trigger My Timber, because it was a Denton and Reddish WhatsApp only, and we need to clear that up. No one in Ashton, Hyde or Staley Bridge were ever involved in that, because I keep seeing people seem to say, oh, I felt embarrassed going to Mass because people thought I was involved in it. I had to explain that, and anyone who knows me, it's an integral part of my life, which is going to church. I felt embarrassed. I've seen Councillor Ricky saw fit that these people who were on that should have been leading this council. And therefore, just on that statement alone, the NEC should be removed, and not Councillor Wells. I should have been more hard. But that's an internal matter, and I accept that. I'll most probably get in trouble again tomorrow, but that's life. But you know what? I will always speak against racism. I did it in my workplace. I did. Who believes racism is banter should ever walk back in this party, the Labour Party, and should never actually be elected by people of this borough.
Councillor Mills. Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. For those that don't know, Eleanor and I shared a desk at St Damian's for the last 2 years, so I've grown to know Eleanor over the years, and I can honestly say, hand on heart, what a wonderful, kind and honest, genuine person she is. But I think, as parents, we all know that our children kind of keep us humble, and I'll just simply say that, referring to Eleanor and David's eldest son, his statement sums it up really. Mummy, I am so proud of you for your new job. I know helping people is the right thing, and the thing you do best. And I think that's just praise indeed. I know that Alderman Balaguer will be proud of you, and your mum will be looking down as humbly and proud as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Rickett.
Can I just also thank Jacqueline North for all the work she's done while she's been on Tameside Council. You've been an exceptional councillor, and I'd also like to thank her for her support when she's contacted me, phoned me, and text me regarding the WhatsApp group. I have to mention the WhatsApp group because I believe this vote of no confidence has been brought about because of the WhatsApp group. And I, along with Councillor Cunha, won't be voting on the motion. I won't be voting against it. I won't be voting for it. I will be abstaining simply because the Labour Party have suspended me because I am one of the members on that WhatsApp group. I wasn't involved in it, was not involved in it, and I am 150% confident that I will be exonerated at the moment, depending on what I say going forward. But whatever happens to me going forward, it will be nothing to do with the WhatsApp group. I got a phone call off a chap, I'm going to name him because he's threw me under a bus, called Anthony Lavelle. Phoned me up on the 11th of February.
Councillor Ricky, you
member of the Labour Party.
You cannot name individuals who are not in this room that are able to defend themselves.
Right, but it's all right.
So if you continue in that vein,
right,
I'll ask you to sit down.
Okay. Member of the Labour Party phoned me. I had a stand up row with him on the phone, saying I was going to get suspended for my involvement in the WhatsApp group. I told him, I've got no involvement in the WhatsApp group. I was put on that by my members because it was supposed to help with work in the ward, campaigning, leafleting, door knocking, Christmas cards, meeting where we was meeting. All wonderful, fine. I had no input in it whatsoever because I'm illiterate on the IT. I've got a phone in front of me. It's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the reason for that is I don't know how to turn the bloody thing off. That's how much my IT extends. The staff know, all my colleagues know, they take the mickey out of me. It doesn't bother me, that. When I went to school, it was a chalk and a slate. Now then, this Trigger Me Timbers group, I reported this, and I was booted off the site on the 7th of April 2022 by the administrator. I've still got the site on my phone. It's been deleted from all over the world. It's still on my phone, the original Trigger Me Timbers, it's on there. Anybody wants to see it, they can contact me, they can see it. It started on the 2nd of January 2019 and I was booted off on the 7th of April 2022 and it continued till 2024. And on my suspension it says it is alleged that between 2019 and 2024 you participated in a WhatsApp group in which offensive, abusive comments were made about members of the party, members of Parliament and local constituents. Number 2, it is alleged that between 2019 and 2024 you posted messages which were abusive and grossly offensive. That's off the fella who phoned me up and I told him I got booted off the site in 2022 and I'm getting suspended because of my involvement from 2019 to 2024. I'm absolutely fuming just at the contents of that. Absolutely fuming. And when I got suspended, I'm chair of planning. I got suspended on the 11th of February. On the 12th of February, I was supposed to chair a planning meeting. I couldn't do it because I was suspended. But you know what I did? I got up, I got dressed, and I went to planning. And I sat in the public gallery. I didn't bugger off to the Lake District. I did under a rock. I went in the public gallery and showed my face because I'd done nothing wrong. And do you know what happened then? One of my colleagues came up to me and said, it'd be a good idea if you leave, because it's embarrassing. Because people in that room know that I'm the chair of planning, and they'll be wondering why the chair of planning is sat in the public gallery and not chairing the meeting. And I said, I'm here holding my head up high because I've done nothing wrong. And that same person on that same day refused to get in a taxi with me. That's what my suspension has done. I've had people
Councillor,
getting hold of
Councillor,
this is all about the vote of no confidence.
Councillor Rickett, that's not about no confidence.
It is, that's what spells it on.
It is a very emotive issue for you personally and the other members of that group.
It's a motive
and
issue for
the rest
leader.
of the councillors who, according to social media, are all the same, all of us in there. You're not here to make a personal statement, you're here to contribute to this motion, Councillor Rickett.
The motion's here because of Triggamy Timbers.
No,
the motion's here because of Triggamy Timbers.
No.
Well, the people on that group...
Continue on with the motion, please, Councillor Rickett.
I can't talk about no Triggamy Timbers.
No, we're not here.
That's what's caused the motion.
We're not here to talk about what went on in that group, who was in it, who said what, because a lot of us in there haven't seen the content.
Well, if you want to see it, I'll show you. I've got it.
It is under investigation.
See me after, I'll show you.
It is under investigation.
3.5 years old. 3.5 years
I ask the public gallery to please be quiet. Councillor Mary Sherry.
I urge everyone to think about what has happened in the last 4 months. I have complete confidence in our leader and believe she can continue to bring positive change in our community. In just 4 months, I have seen more progress. Our leader has introduced new energy and ideas that we desperately needed. We must acknowledge the significant challenges we face as a council, mostly due to the cuts and austerity measures that have been imposed on us. These cuts have strained our services, affected our budget and increased the difficulties our community face. We are tasked with trying to provide services and support in the time when resources are limited, and that is no small feat. In the face of this, good leadership is more important than ever. She has made it clear that she wants to be open with all of us so every councillor's opinion can be heard. This is not just a small change, it's a significant improvement that helps us make better decisions for our community. Stability in the leadership is crucial, especially during times of change and challenge. Our leader brings a steady hand, clear vision, and determination. We know there are many challenges ahead, but I believe we can overcome them together under her guidance. I strongly encourage all of you to recognize the progress we have made and vote against this no confidence motion. Let's give our leader the chance she deserves to keep leading us toward a brighter future. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Halligan.
It's really a simple point to make. Most people in this room, I don't actually know if most have met me yet, but in the just less than 12 months I've been on the council, I try to get along with as many people as possible. I see us all as, whether you're Labour, Conservative, no party at all, we're all people at the end of the day. We all want what's best for the borough. That should transcend party lines. But I think what I have heard tonight from Councillor Cooney, Councillor Rickey, the Executive, Councillor Billington, and it's great to see that there's so many members of the public in here tonight to hear this as well, is can we really say that there isn't a cloud over the process? It's not about the people. Councillor Wells, I have no reason to doubt you on a personal level. I really need to make that clear. But if I'm putting myself in my hat back on as a member of the public, if I can't sit here and think, yeah, I can see exactly a clear process that happened to lead to the imposition of an executive cabinet, I can't have confidence in the process. And if you can't have confidence in the process, logically you can't have confidence in the output from that process. And simple point there. Thank you.
Councillor Borden.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody that's supported me in being Deputy Mayor in the forthcoming year. I would say that Councillor Wills has definitely got my support. The support I've had off the leader over these last few months has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'm one of them people that possibly didn't really stand up and say much in full council, but now I am, and it's all because I'm feeling comfortable and I'm feeling that I can make something of myself. And the other thing as well, and this is mostly directed towards the left, I'm just wondering where it's stated, where it says that the leader isn't allowed to go to the bathroom through somebody's speech. And I'm just wondering why. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Affleck.
I don't often get up and say a lot at council, but I feel as though I need to today. I attended 2 meetings where I voted freely, democratically, for a new leader. That new leader was Helena Wills. Nobody put pressure on me to vote for anybody else. So as far as I'm concerned, I freely voted for the leader of my choice. Since Helena's been in post, in the few months that she's been in power, she's worked tirelessly for the people of Tameside. Whenever I go to her and ask her for anything or an advice or I need to discuss anything with her, she always gets back to me and she's always willing to talk things through. All I can say is I back Helena all the way. Thank you.
Councillor Jacqueline Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I had planned something to say, but I feel like I just want to say what I want to say. So, Eleanor, you've got my full support, and I'm really pleased that you're here leading us and that you're giving people like myself the opportunity to be able to take part in a very active way rather than languishing on the back bench. So, thank you.
Councillor Allen.
I support Eleanor, the leader of the council, fully, so she's got my support. She's serving the residents of Tameside and she's doing it really well, so I just want to give her my full support.
Councillor Robinson.
Motion of no confidence. Were any rules broken within the Labour Party? No. Was the leader elected by the Labour group? Yes. Has she brought openness and democracy to within the group and the council? Yes. So I urge everybody to vote against. Thank you.
Councillor Jackie Lane.
Chair. Is it okay, yeah? I just want to echo everything what my colleagues have said about Eleanor. You know, she's coming to leadership at a difficult time. And I just want to say, everything that everybody's said is right. She's hard-working, she's caring, she's open, empathic. Now, empathic's an easy word to banter about. But in reality, empathic means you enter that person's world, whoever you're dealing with. And I can assure you Eleanor does that. I found all this in her, but not only me, I've had residents that come through, whether it be the Tameside Refuge, the Ladies' Refuge at Ruffler House, whether it be people up at the Together Centre, where she's been visiting there. They've all found her to be open, real and approachable. And that's what we need to have in our leadership. So it's about time now we oppose this ridiculous motion, we stand by Eleanor and we stand by each other and we move forward. Thank you.
Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Wills has shown excellent leadership in some very difficult times. She's provided stability and direction. Her leadership style is one of collaboration, engaging with Cabinet and other members at every opportunity. The needs of Tameside residents are her utmost priority. She has genuine empathy and is concerned about the well-being of everybody around her. She's the type of leader to put an arm around your shoulder and take you with her. She is a breath of fresh air and continues to provide an atmosphere of transparency and trust and putting everybody else first. In my view, leadership comes naturally to Councillor Wills, and I'm happy to support her every step of the way. I urge you to reject this motion.
Councillor Costello.
Thank you, Chair. It's been heartwarming to listen to the various personal platitudes around the room about Councillor Wills, although some of it is a little bit harsh, I think. I was never the biggest fan of Councillor Warrington or Councillor Cooney in the leadership position, but to claim that they achieved less in their tenure than Councillor Wills has in the last 4 months is a little bit of a stretch, I think. Anyway, the point of this motion is not about Councillor Wills' leadership of this council. It isn't a personal attack on Councillor Wills, as Councillor Billington said before in raising the motion. This is about safeguarding democratic accountability to the residents of the borough. And I'll pick up on Councillor McCarron's point about democratic accountability. And he is right to say that Prime Ministers of the Tory party are voted on by the membership after the elected representatives in Parliament narrow down the list. That is exactly what we are asking for here, the relevant elected representatives to have a say in who the leader is, which has not been the case, as Councillor Cooney confirmed in the Tameside Labour Group leadership. And while we're on Councillor McLaren's response, I should point out that Councillor Wills' appointment was not fully supported in this chamber. It had majority. It had majority support. I agree, but it was not fully supported. Let me be very clear about it. But I agree with Councillor McLaren around getting on with the work. That's exactly what we're asking for. Councillor Sharif said exactly the same. We want this council to be focused on delivering for residents of Tameside. That is exactly the point of the motion. We want the council, and in particular the executive, to focus on doing the job, not to focus on internal party politicking, not to focus on self-preservation, and not to focus on this internal conflict that has been laid bare for us tonight in this chamber by Labour and former Labour councillors here tonight. The NEC appointments have been a disaster here. A number fell apart within a couple of months, exactly as Councillor Cooney said, and I'm very sad to hear that Councillor Cooney isn't supporting the motion, given that he seems to agree with nearly all of it. But I understand your position. These appointments have led to poor leadership and further chaos in the running of this council, not to mention the appalling lack of judgment in appointing executive members who have shown themselves to be entirely unworthy of any public office, let alone an executive cabinet brief. This motion is designed to ensure that the leadership of Tameside Council is democratically accountable to the residents of Tameside, not to Labour Party High Command. So I urge members to support it, on all sides of the chamber, to protect democracy and to ensure that the residents that we are all here to represent maintain their right to choose who they are governed by. Thank you.
Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Chair. I'm probably in a fairly unusual position in that I am a ward colleague of Councillor Wills along with Councillor Sweeten, and so we've probably spent more time with each other than we spend with our families on lots of occasions. So meeting regularly, working in our ward, talking to residents, And I know from my own experience, I've seen Eleanor's strength, her leadership, her commitment over many, many years. So yes, she is now the leader of this council, but she has committed herself over many years to support this council in whatever role she has taken on. And she's always done that with absolute commitment. And so I'm obviously going to say that I support Eleanor 100% in her role, that I think she's doing a great job, that the investment for education is no coincidence, that this is a great opportunity, and this is listening to the concerns. We listen to our residents, we listen, we discuss, and we have a leader that's prepared to now make decisions to invest into areas that are an absolute priority. So I'm going to say that I have absolutely all my confidence in Eleanor continuing as the leader, and I urge everyone in this chamber to support her. Thank you.
Councillor Sangeeta Patel.
Thanks, Chair. Just want to take a moment to express my support for Councillor Eleanor Wills as the leader of the council. I've seen her dedication, her hard work and commitment to listen to residents and to take action on important issues. I appreciate her commitment to make our community better.
Thank you. Councillor Axford.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be brief. Just to say that over the last 4 months, I've seen the drive, determination and hard work that Eleanor's put in towards Tameside residents, and she has my full support.
Thank you. Councillor Roderick.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to give full-throated support to Councillor Wills. This chamber elected her democratically. That's the bottom line. The processes within the Labour Party are for the Labour Party and their membership, as the processes in the Conservative Party are for the Conservative Party's membership. When it comes to cabinet members not being appropriate for their roles, as soon as this leader was aware that members of her cabinet were not suitable for role, she removed them. That's leadership, that's integrity.
Correct. Councillor Billington, do you mind not interrupting the meeting? Nobody interrupted you doing your speech.
Gymnastics there with your logic there.
Councillor Roderick.
Oh, well,
Councillor Roderick, address the chair.
Apologies.
Ignore the rude interruptions by Councillor Billington, who should know better.
In conclusion, this chamber has also passed a budget today that is ambitious for our borough. So let's get on with it and get rid of this motion.
Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Chair. I had wrote a lot of stuff down that I was going to say, but most of it's been said today, so I won't bore anyone, and I won't respond to sort of comments from Councillor Cooney earlier on regarding something else. But I would like to say that in the short space of time that Councillor Wills has been, as someone said before, has been like a breath of fresh air. She has shown determination, hard working, honesty, openness, and in such trying circumstances has stood firm, providing strong leadership.
Councillor Cooney, please do not interrupt the meeting. Please sit down. Please sit down. Councillor Cooney, please continue.
Providing strong leadership, and a lesser person may not have, would just basically walked away. I think someone said it earlier on. Why would I put myself through this? But she's done it, and fair play to her. I think Councillor Wills is and will be for many years an excellent council leader, not only here in Tameside but in Greater Manchester, where I know she has made a massive impression and has put Tameside back on the map. I will be supporting Councillor Wills tonight as executive leader for many years to come. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Glover. Councillor Glover. Councillor Glover.
Just to be very brief, I've not had a lot of dealings with Eleanor Wills. I have no problem with her whatsoever. She seems to have been very competent as far as I've had contact with her. What I do find a struggle is the NEC of the Labour Party. I don't have any confidence in them at all, or their capabilities in dealing with some of these issues that have come forward. So that was all I wanted to say at this moment. It just leaves me in a dilemma as to how to vote in order to address the NEC and them. Thank you.
That's fine. I accept what you say. Councillor Sweeton.
Just clarify a point. I never, ever put myself forward to be leader of this council. I know the correspondent or other newspapers had Eleanor and me slogging it out like a heavyweight fighter. No, I never put myself forward, and I never got a call to say don't put myself forward. Let me make that very, very clear. Let me make that clear. What I do want to say is people have concentrated on what Eleanor's good at. Like Leanne said, I've known Eleanor since she was so big. Yes, she's kind. Yes, she'll put the arm round. Yes, she gets things. She's very bright. Not a problem with that. Let's strip that away. Councillor Costello said one thing. What's best for this authority? Well, if we concentrate on that, in these 4 or 5 months, this council has unblocked things that have been blocked for a damn long time. We have moved forward. We've moved forward considerably. Everybody, including you guys and gals, know that officers' engagement now is like it's never, ever been before. We can get things done. They turn up at our scrutinies, they take our calls, they return our emails. This is moving the borough forward. This is the change that's been brought about in these last few months. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Teresa Smith.
So tonight we hear lots of comments about Councillor Eleanor Wills, leader of Tameside Council. A few negative, but I'm pleased to hear mostly positive. Before you this evening is a woman with a vision for all of Tameside. She brings the drive and ambition that we need for our borough. Eleanor is working hard at GM level to make sure that Tameside gets its fair share and more. She's determined to ensure our businesses prosper and see growth in all areas of our communities. Eleanor understands what our communities need to thrive, to address the issues around poverty and deprivation, and is dealing with them with compassion. She's pride in our area and wants it to be a place where people can enjoy green spaces and leisure, a place where families can spend time together. Eleanor's support for children's services has been unwavering. The Commissioner's report made us all sit up and take notice, and she's pledged to support this service, not because it's a council service that has been judged inadequate, but because she has the passion and dedication to make a real difference, especially to those who have the greatest need. I'm proud to stand here tonight to support our leader, a leader who's not just about the business of running a council, because here is a true leader because of her qualities, a leader who has knowledge, vision, ambition, understanding, compassion, determination, and most of all, resilience. I look forward to seeing her grow into one of the best leaders that Tameside Council has ever had. I'm proud to offer her support. And if I was asked to choose the leader again tonight, my choice would still be Eleanor. Thank you.
Councillor Stephen Homer.
Thanks, Chair. Eleanor's our democratically elected leader. She has been for the last 4 months. It's not been the easiest of 4 months, but she's got the job done. And I have every faith that going forward she'll get the job done again. And she'll keep on getting the job done until this borough improves. So she has my full support. I hope she gets support from everybody else today as well tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Especially for our colleagues who are fasting today. I'd expect you to get home and get something, but I've heard people tonight say this isn't an attack on Councillor Wills. Oh yes it is. Of course it is. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
And what it is, it's a political stunt. Yeah. That's what it is. It's a political stunt. Now, I've known Eleanor. I also knew a father, a mother, your granddad, your grandma, and your uncle. Me and Mike lived on the same estate. We were kids together. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Councillor Mills who said, your mum and your dad would be proud of you. And that's enough said.
Thanks.
Councillor Toshke.
Thank you, Chair. And I know a lot of things has been said, but I'm rising to obviously speak against the motion and in support of our duly elected leader of the council, Councillor Wills, who has been in the post for the last few months with the endorsement of the full council. This motion is nothing but the sheer attempt to score, as John said, Councillor Taylor said, score political points by the opposition. I do feel that members of public is being misled from the core issues that Tameside residents are facing and needs our support with. I strongly condemn this motion and urge colleagues to express their full support for our leader to allow us to get back to serve our residents, which is what we have been elected for. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to bring in the Executive Leader before I ask Councillor Billington to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't intended to speak this evening, so I'll do perhaps what I do best, and that's speak from the heart. I think there are lots of responses that I could give this evening with regards to, in my view, some salacious themes, shall we say, and events that suddenly fall upon me, of which I had no involvement in or knowledge of. But I am here in this position of leader. I am here in my capacity this evening as leader to put some of the myths to bed. I knew nothing of that WhatsApp group. I agree with Councillor Cooney with regards to what should be accepted and what shouldn't, but I'm not a leader who knew anything about it. And when I did, when it came to my attention, I supported those members to leave my cabinet. That was within 12 hours.
Yeah.
I also instructed that that group was closed down, because it's my understanding that it hadn't been instructed prior to that. So I can't comment on what previous leaders did or didn't do or know. But with regards to this motion and division, I truly believe that I am the opposite of divisive. Yeah. And I will hold anybody, yourselves included, to account for creating division in Tameside. Our residents deserve better. It's not accepted within our Labour group. And I, for one, support our Labour Party in the decisions that they've made to transparently investigate what has happened within this group as part of a WhatsApp conversation. I will reiterate, I am not divisive. I am here to support every member, but broader than that, I'm here to remember the cause, and the cause is to improve the lives of Tameside residents. I grew up in poverty. I've had throughout my life many adversities, domestic abuse, coercion, and I hope residents see themselves in me and see the drive and the ambition that I have to pursue their best outcome. We are the opportunity finder. And standing here this evening away from my home and my 3 children is not a decision that comes easily. But it's worthy. And it's worthwhile. I was the only person that put myself forward for this group, and in spite of all the noise and the distraction, I will do so again and again and again and again to get the best for Tameside. And I will do that at my own sacrifice, and trust me, it is, because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Councillor Billington to sum up.
Thank you. Should do a motion on that. Doreen's always like, no, we don't do motions. She doesn't like them. Now I see a point why. I've never seen so many of you get up to speak. It's like as if you're a part of this. No, it's a purity test because
I ask members not to interrupt, please.
Oh, I don't mind. But
so have I, but you've got 10 minutes.
Like as if.
Or 9.5.
It's like as if you've got a purity test that if you don't speak in favour of the leader, then the NEC are going to come after you and you'll be out for when they do the selections. I can see it a mile off. And some of you is going, oh, isn't Eleanor wonderful? Yeah, you've got an SRA out of it, your deputy mayor, or, you know, you've got, you know, assistant cabinet, you know. We can see right through it, don't worry. You know, so that's the way that the cookie crumbles. We know how it works within your group. You have taken things out of context, you know, like this has never been about the character of Councillor Wills, as I've said publicly in the past, and it's been about taking the borough forward and respecting democracy and the processes around that our residents entrust us with. The fact is, the NEC have made some very bad decisions, which they have forced on this borough, of which we are all custodians of. You say that, you know, you acted on them, and there's a number of things, but Eleanor, I think really you are gaslighting the public. I'm not seeing more transparency, I'm not seeing more openness from the council. It's becoming very insular around a certain clique, and that clique's very small, because I don't think really that the support base is there. It's very, very fragile. So, I know people want to get home. It's pancake day. I'm a good Catholic. This has been, I think, by doing this motion, is this the longest council meeting we've had? It certainly has been since I've been elected in 2018. So I broke a record there. But what I will say is, as well, I think this has actually brought some unity in itself, because I look at Councillor Ricky and Councillor Cooney being shut down by Councillor Kitchen, and I'm like thinking, now you must know how I feel. So there is, you know, hopefully, you know, some realisation from members there who it's good to have these debates around democracy and respecting that. And that's what I want for this borough, is the best for the borough. We have our differences. You said what you want in the budget. That's passed. You believe in higher taxes. I don't. You have different priorities for the borough. I respect that. That's a democratic mandate, and you'll be judged on that in 2026. So within that, Should we call a name vote? Do we need to after all that? Carry on. I don't think we need to. We were going to call for a name vote. We won't do that now. We'll save you the 5 minutes. We've got Pancake Day today, so we'll go ahead with that. You're happy with a name vote? You want a name vote, right? Okay. Councillor Barton wants a name vote. We'll give him it. So take extra time.
I think you'll find that Councillor Barton can't do that on his own. Sorry, Councillor Ellington, continue, please.
So, but what I will say is, how I feel that this council is going, is that I feel like we are returning to the days of Councillor Brenda Warrington, who was rejected by the Labour group. And I feel some of the politics, some of the words that are coming out, very empty, very hollow, didn't really achieve anything in the 4 years. And I think if you continue to go down this line, I think you're going to lose a number of seats. I do have my opinions on a certain someone as well, but I've been told I can't say that. But the group know. The group do know. And it's about someone who resigned from the council.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but it just feels like a repetition of those days. We're going backwards, not forwards. So I'll just wrap it up on that. I think, we do need change. Change is good. And we'll see about that at the 2026 local elections. And yeah, I think I'll do well, Eleanor. Yeah.
Okay. Is that it, Councillor Billington?
I've increased my majority each time.
Councillor Billington, have you finished?
Yeah, I've finished, yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank God for that.
Thank God for you.
Councillor,
Never get to the end.
excuse me, just before we go to the vote, Councillor McLaren.
Yeah, I'd just like to move for a name vote, please.
Is that seconded? We need 6 members to stand, please. At least. Thank you. We'll now move to the name vote.
Against it, or whether you abstain. Councillor Affleck.
Against.
Councillor Allen.
Against.
Councillor Axford. Councillor Barton. Councillor Beardmore. Councillor Billington. Councillor Borden. Councillor Boyle. Councillor Bray. Councillor Chadwick. Councillor Chopsey. Councillor Colborne. Councillor Cooney. Councillor Costello. Councillor Drennan. Councillor Feely. Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Glover. Councillor Halligan. Councillor Jack Homer. Councillor Stephen Homer. Councillor Howarth. Councillor Kareem. Councillor Khan. Councillor Kitchen.
Against.
Councillor Lane. Councillor McLaren. Councillor Mills. Councillor Owen. Councillor Patel. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Rickey. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Roderick. Councillor Naila Sharif. Councillor Tafeen Sharif. Councillor Mike Smith. Councillor Teresa Smith. Councillor Sweeton. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Tilbrook. Councillor Ward. Councillor Warrington. Councillor Wills. Did I miss anybody out? That's it, Chair.
No. Need a recount. It's overwhelmingly defeated. So therefore that is the end of the meeting. I'll now close the meeting.